Chapter 1607. Once Wang Dong said that, everyone around them was dumbfounded. Yun Jian was killed by a sniper? How did she manage to survive? She was still standing here alive. What did this mean? It meant that she was strong enough to avoid the sniper's attack. If one were to ask, a sniper would usually kill someone without making a sound. Before a sniper killed a target, it was impossible for them to tell their target that they were coming to kill them, so run quickly, right? When a sniper killed someone, they aimed directly at them and ran away after a headshot when the person appeared. If Yun Jian was killed by a sniper and still managed to realize that the sniper was shooting her, it could only mean one thing. That was her vigilance and insight, which were extremely powerful and exquisite. Therefore, Qing Yu's words were a direct reflection of this. That was how strong Yun Jian's ability was. Lin Susu's expression changed as if she had just eaten dog poop before everyone's eyes. Qing Yu's words were a clear indication of how strong Yun Jian was. Wang Dong was only surprised for a moment before he stopped showing an exaggerated expression. After all, when Yun Jian escaped from the dungeon back then, there were so many people with machine guns aimed at her. Yun Jian had killed the guards with machine guns in such a dangerous place and led them out of the dungeon. Snipers were scary because they could snipe you from a high vantage point when you couldn't even detect them. Yun Jian's ability, however, could definitely take them on. Blood doll sniper isn't enough to threaten my sister Jian. Qing Yu scoffed and said. Qing Yu looked sweet, but when she spoke, there was an eerie chill in her voice. It rendered Lin Susu, who despised Yun Jian's ability just now, speechless. I didn't expect you to be so good. Wang Qingjiang decided to take back his previous words and hit on Yun Jian officially. Hence, Wang Qingjiang spoke to Yun Jian. Yun Jian ignored him. Ahem. I underestimated you before. Let's be friends officially. You see, you're also a Special Forces soldier. My uncle is also a Special Forces soldier. You two can take care of each other when you go to the hunting school's training ground. Wang Qingjiang began to use the most old-fashioned and vulgar way to strike up a conversation with Yun Jian. Yun Jian still didn't reply. At the same time, Yun Jian turned around and was about to leave the park. She even said to Zhang Xiaofan, practice by yourself. I'll check your progress next time. At this point, Yun Jian was already planning to walk out of the park. Only then did Wang Dong scratch his head, somewhat at a loss. Listening to his nephew's words, the meaning behind his words was, wasn't Yun Jian friends with his nephew, Wang Qingjiang? Just as Wang Dong was feeling puzzled, Yun Jian had already asked Qing Yu to leave the park with her. This time, Wang Qingjiang was anxious. Wang Qingjiang might be short, about 5 to 6 centimeters shorter than Yun Jian, and he wasn't good-looking, but deep down, Wang Qingjiang wanted to find a girl who was more outstanding and better than him. To put it bluntly, Wang Qingjiang just wanted to be a gigolo who only knew how to eat white rice. It was a pity that his looks were nothing like a gigolo. Hey, don't go. Let's be friends. Let's get along. Wang Qingjiang obviously wanted to flirt with Yun Jian. In his panic, he ran up to grab Yun Jian's hand with his short and ugly hand. However, before his hand could reach Yun Jian's delicate wrist, it was grabbed by a slender and well-defined hand. The slender and well-defined hand grabbed Wang Qingjiang's hand. His tall body looked down on Wang Qingjiang's 1.59 meters height, and he flung Wang Qingjiang away in the next second. As he flung Wang Qingjiang away, he lifted his leg and sent Wang Qingjiang flying a few meters away with his long thigh. Chapter 1608. Wang Qingjiang was sent flying several meters by Siyi's kick. He hurriedly covered his heart, which was about to jump out of his chest, and looked at Siyi with pain and malevolence. Your woman? She's your woman? She didn't even show it on her face. What right do you have to say that she's your woman? Wang Qingjiang was indignant. He growled at Ce as he stood up and walked over to Yunjian. He met eyes with Ce, who was standing in front of Yunjian. Ce was 185 meters tall, while Wang Qingjiang was 159 meters tall. The height difference between the two of them was even bigger than the height difference between Yunjian and Ce. Yunjian was 165 meters tall, which was 6 centimeters taller than Wang Qingjiang. Wang Qingjiang looked directly at Ce, but he couldn't even see Ce's chin. As a boy, he was standing in front of Ce, and he even tried to force himself to look into Ce's eyes. This was simply too hilarious. Wang Qingjiang naturally realized that Ce was taller and more handsome than him. He swallowed a mouthful of saliva and tiptoed slightly. Seeing that he couldn't gain any advantage in front of Ce, he turned his head to look at Yunjian. After glancing at Yunjian, Wang Qingjiang turned his head to look into Ce's eyes again. Then he said to Ce in a serious tone, "Teacher said that we can't discriminate against people. The teacher said that I can't discriminate against anyone. Although I'm not tall enough and I'm not particularly good looking, I won't be as unreasonable as you. I'm extremely possessive. People have the right to choose too. Looks and height can't make a living. At least she won't despise me like you do. If you don't believe me, you can ask her if she despises me. Will she choose me? I don't think she'll despise me. She'll definitely choose me." Wang Qingjiang grasped each and every word very well. If Yunjian did not choose him, then it would mean that Yunjian despised him for being short and ugly. Others would think that Yunjian was a snobbish person. Wang Qingjiang didn't know about the relationship between Ce and Yunjian. He thought that Ce and Yunjian's relationship was just a pair of young men and women who were in love. To put it bluntly, in the eyes of Wang Qingjiang, Yuan Hongming, and the others, this kind of relationship was just a game, and they could snatch it away at any time. However, anyone who knew about Ce and Yunjian's relationship would think otherwise. "Good job, Qingjiang. Looks like you've made up your mind to flirt with this girl." A boy beside him started to jeer again. His tone was full of bragging. Wang Qingjiang was really excited when he heard that. He stood on his tiptoes even harder, trying to be eye level with Ce, but he could barely reach Ce's shoulder. Wang Qingjiang thought that he was very smart. After what he said, Yunjian would definitely choose him because she wanted to explain to the public that she was not looking down on him. Even if she did not choose him, she would not reject him too directly. After all, which girl would not want to embarrass herself in public? Just as Wang Qingjiang was waiting for Yunjian's reply, Yunjian's voice came out of nowhere, shocking Wang Qingjiang and the rest. "Stupid and ignorant brat." After saying that, Yunjian turned to call Qingyu over and grabbed Ce's hand to leave the park with Ce. Zhang Xiaofan and Chen Sini who were behind them were not in a hurry to leave. Zhang Xiaofan still had to train by himself for a while. Although Chen Sini bickered with Zhang Xiaofan every day, she would still stay with him until Zhang Xiaofan was done with his training. "Wait, what do you mean by this? Are you really going to choose him because of my looks?" Wang Qingjiang could not take it anymore when he saw that Yunjian was about to leave. He quickly shouted at Yunjian. Yunjian's eyes flickered when she heard Wang Qingjiang's straightforward words. Her lips curled into a red arc as she turned around with a smirk. Wang Qingjiang thought that Yunjian was going to change her mind when he saw that. Chapter 1609. He had a lot of stamina. A lot of stamina? Was she referring to him? Cough cough. Ce who wanted to stand up for Yunjian coughed lightly. His large palm held Yunjian's hand firmly as he stood beside Yunjian with his head lowered, looking at her exquisite side profile, thinking that she was telling him that he had a lot of stamina. Ce thought, he should really work harder. His Xiao Jian had praised him so much. If he did not work hard and blossom, how was he going to bear fruit? He wanted her to give birth to a bunch of children for him. Hearing what she said, Ce lowered his head slightly with a smirk. He wanted Xiao Jian to give birth to a football team for him. It was not enough. Were the two of them enough? It was better to live and grow old together. No, no. His Xiao Jian would give birth to something bad. If his Xiao Jian fell sick from giving birth, he probably would not be able to rest easy for the rest of his life. You guys? Both of you? Everything else aside, Wang Qingjiang was really getting the wrong idea. Yunjian and Ce? Yunjian and Ce. Both of them were already, most importantly, what Yunjian said just now was an obvious and deliberate contrast to what she had said. Did that mean that Yunjian said that he definitely could not do it? What about the opposite? Men usually hated being told that they could not do it, so Wang Qingjiang nearly spat blood when he heard what Yunjian said. Most importantly, Yunjian had said what she said just now in front of so many people without blushing or skipping a beat. You guys, Wang Qingjiang pointed at Yunjian and Ce, his hand trembling as if he was bent over by a spring. The trembling was astounding. Xiao Jian loves that I have a lot of stamina. Ce continued Yunjian shamelessly, ignoring Wang Qingjiang who was trembling in exasperation as he wrapped his arm around Yunjian's slender waist and lowered his head slightly. His height and figure that matched Yunjian was enough to dazzle the eyes of everyone present. Then, he leaned close to Yunjian's ear and moaned softly. Ce's action drove everyone even more crazy, especially Wang Qingjiang. A perfect match, wasn't it referring to Yunjian and Ce? Compared to this, Wang Qingjiang's previous actions were truly foolish to the extreme. Wang Qingjiang was irritated by Yunjian and Ce's banter. That was not all. Ce added, Xiao Jian, let's go back to our home. The main point of Ce's home for both was too obvious and intentional. In spite of it, Wang Qingjiang was truly shocked by Ce's words. You guys are living together? Everyone present was shocked, but no one was as shocked as Wang Qingjiang. Yunjian and Ce were living together? Why can't we live together when our parents have already approved of it? Ce was truly addicted to bragging as he looked straight at Yunjian with a handsome smile. I heard from Officer Gu that he has a son-in-law, he said on. He said that once his daughter reaches legal age, he'll register at the Civil Affairs Bureau immediately. He even said that his son-in-law and his daughter have already gotten Country R's marriage certificate. Don't tell me that the son-in-law Officer Gu mentioned is you, young man. Wang Qingjiang was about to pass out from anger, but it was not enough. His uncle, Wang Dong, personally dealt him a critical blow. You guys even have a Country R marriage certificate? You guys are married? Wang Qingjiang glared at Yunjian and Ce like he was about to vomit blood. He had not noticed it earlier, but he suddenly noticed that both Yunjian and Ce were wearing wedding rings. At first, Wang Qingjiang thought that girls liked to wear such things, so he did not pay much attention. Now, however, these were probably Yunjian and Ce's wedding rings. Chapter 16:10. When she saw the marriage certificate, Yunjian wanted to facepalm again. He really couldn't bear to not keep this marriage certificate in his trouser pocket at all times, not even for a second. Who in the world could bear to leave their marriage certificate at home at all times, not even for a second? Besides Ce, there was probably no one else in the world who could do this, right? Ce's actions also shocked Wang Dong. This young man actually hid his marriage certificate in his pocket? Moreover, he even took it out to show off and then hid it back in his trouser pocket like a treasure. Wang Dong didn't know whether to laugh or cry. To be honest, other than Ce, no one else in the world could do what Ce did. Of course, this also made everyone present feel a little bit, a very strong little bit. That was how much Ce treasured Yunjian. He even hid his marriage certificate with Yunjian like a treasure. Not to mention how much he doted on Yunjian. Furthermore, Ce was so handsome. Not only was Ce handsome, but he also doted on Yun Jian to a whole new level. He was the object of envy of all the girls present. However, in the eyes of such a person, there was only Yun Jian's figure. His eyes were filled with her. Ah! You two are really loving. Even Wang Dong couldn't help but praise them. Wang Dong was Wang Qingjiang's uncle, but his character was completely different from Wang Qingjiang's. Wang Dong was 1.75 meters tall, and good-looking. Coupled with his current achievements, he was only in his 30s, so he could be considered a young and accomplished person. When he saw how loving Yun Jian and Ce were, Wang Dong couldn't help but praise them. It was only when he was done with his compliments that Wang Dong told Ce, "Young man, you have a bright future by doting on your woman. I have to learn from you too. When I have a girlfriend in the future, I have to dote on her too. I'll treat her as my sweetheart." Ce didn't react much to Wang Dong's words. To Ce, be it in front of others or behind others, Xiao Jian was the apple of his eye. "She's my life." Ce returned the words to Wang Dong. She was his life, and he would use his own life to protect hers. No matter if it was him as a divine lord or the current him. It was just like how he had given up on his godhead in her previous life, risking his soul being destroyed and almost falling, without any hesitation to save her, whose soul should have been destroyed. He had said that even if he were to die, he would die in her place. Even if her soul was scattered, he would be the one to bear it for her. After returning home from the park, Yun Jian and Ce parted ways with Qingyu. Qingyu skipped back to her place and went home to change before going on a date with Yun Yi. In the empty suite where the north wind howled, the pitiful single Gu Nianji hugged her pillow as she watched Qingyu skip into the room to change into pretty clothes and go on a date with Yun Yi. When Yun Jian and Ce got home, they went to Mrs. Yang's house to look for Xiao Yunju and the others. Qin Yiru had gone back to the countryside to accompany Qin Fangfang, so she was not at home. Yun Jian and Ce went to Mrs. Yang's house to check on Xiao Yunju and the others. Seeing that they were happy at Mrs. Yang's place, Yun Jian went home with Ce without worry. Just as they reached home, Yun Jian received a piece of news. Xiao Yunju's biological mother in this life would be recovering and returning in 2 months. Xiao Yunju's biological mother in this life was a woman with a hard life. It was not easy for her to raise Xiao Yunju's physical body. Xiao Yunju's biological mother was stabbed and almost died the last time. Yun Jian sent her abroad for emergency treatment and saved her life. After recuperating for so long, she would be back soon. Would she take Xiao Yunju with her? What are you looking at? There were only Yun Jian and Ce at home. Ce saw Yun Jian looking down at a message on her phone, studying something. He hugged Yun Jian from behind. Yun Jian turned off her phone and shook her head lightly. Nothing. Just as Yun Jian turned off her phone, Ce looked at her lips that were as red as strawberries. He could not help but take out his belt to tie up Yun Jian's hands and raise them above her head. Chapter 16:11. Yun Jian was still mulling over the fact that Xiao Zhu's mother was back. When she came back to her senses, Ce had already lifted her hands and tied them up with his belt. What are you doing?" Yun Jian blushed instantly, knowing what he was about to do to her. Her cheeks were as red as a monkey's butt. "Doing you?" Ce was very close to Yun Jian now, his breath almost spreading from the top of Yun Jian's body. Yun Jian was even more embarrassed now. Yun Jian's cheeks were as red as an apple. "Didn't you say that I'm energetic just now? Xiao Jian, don't you want to try?" Ce asked as he reached inside Yun Jian's clothes and grabbed a certain tender and plump part of Yun Jian's body, getting close and pinching it. Yun Jian's rosy cheeks made Ce like her even more. After holding it in for so long, he really could not hold it in this time. "Xiao Jian, don't be nervous. Leave yourself to me. I'll be gentle if anything happens, Ce said softly as he nibbled on Yunjian's soft earlobe. Yunjian's cheeks were as red as blood. Don't talk, stick close to me. Ce had already taken off Yunjian's top. Just as Ce was about to go deeper, however, the phone in Yunjian's pants pocket buzzed. Seeing this, Yunjian's jubilation and exhilaration was washed away like a splash of water, turning into a puddle of water in an instant. Ce's arousal was quenched as well. F***ck. Ce punched the wall and cursed for the first time in his life. It was his first time being so furious and also his first time expressing his emotions so irrationally. In spite of it, only his Xiao Jian could see his emotions. Yunjian still took out her phone from her pocket. The moment she did so, her cheeks flushed and she tiptoed to kiss Ce on the lips. With the kiss, Ce's restlessness just now vanished. He grabbed Yunjian's hand at once, his dark and gloomy demeanor just now vanishing completely. It was only then that Yunjian answered the call. Yu Xiaoluo's anxious voice came from the other end of the phone. Yunjian, where are you now? The hunting school selection has been pushed forward again. I'm almost at your house now. Pack your essentials quickly and go to the gate. Go there now. Yu Xiaoluo's voice sounded urgent. Yunjian's eyes flickered and she nodded at Yu Xiaoluo under Ce's gaze. Even after he hung up, Ce's expression was still dark. Seeing that, Yunjian tiptoed and kissed Ce on the lips with pursed lips, mimicking how Ce kissed her in the past. She kissed him back for a while before letting go. Yunjian looked at the ground and said shyly, in the future, continue, in the future? This meant that Yunjian had given her silent consent and was certain that he could do these shameful things to her. Ce hugged her and whispered in her ear, Xiao Jian, I'm definitely going to eat you up next time. He really wanted to tear Yu Xiaoluo apart. Why did he have to call now of all times? In spite of it, Ce suppressed the thought for Yunjian when he remembered that his wife still needed Yu Xiaoluo. Buried in Ce's arms, Yunjian blushed as she felt his tenderness. 15 minutes later, Yunjian tidied herself up and carried a simple bag before walking to the road from the house. Yu Xiaoluo drove the car over and honked at where Yunjian was standing. Yunjian, over here. Come over quick. Yunjian glanced at the military jeep that Yu Xiaoluo was driving and saw 4 men and women in their 20s and 30s sitting in it. They were probably special forces soldiers heading to the selection field. Chapter 16:12. Fasten your seatbelts, we're leaving. Yu Xiaoluo smiled when he saw Yunjian hopping into the car. He then stepped on the accelerator and the jeep sped off. Yu Xiaoluo's military jeep was similar to Gu Yunjian's and could accommodate quite a number of people at once. There were 3 rows of seats in the military jeep. Other than Yu Xiaoluo himself, there were 4 other men and women. They were probably going to participate in the hunting academy's selection like Yunjian. In comparison, Yunjian was surprisingly young. At that moment, the woman sitting beside Yu Xiaoluo in the passenger seat turned to look at Yunjian and whistled. Little girl, you're Team Monarch/God, right? I've heard of your name, but I can't tell what you're capable of just by looking at you. The woman had short hair and from the back, she looked like a tomboy. Not only did she lack the feminine charm of a woman, but she also had the domineering aura of a man. Right, I'm Su Mei. It's a very old-fashioned name. My nickname is Moldy, but I prefer that nickname. Don't laugh. Also, you can call me Sister Moldy. Su Mei introduced herself to Yunjian humorously. Ha! Moldy, don't scare the little girl. Little girls can't take scares. Little girl, if you're bullied by Moldy, I'll cover you. Ah! A handsome man who looked like a soldier patted Yunjian's shoulder and said. This man who looked like a soldier was called Su Wenming. Whether it was Su Mei or Su Wenming, what they said was purely a joke. When everyone gathered together, their favorite thing to do was to joke and fool around. After all, it was true that working in the military was sometimes boring. However, when everyone gathered together, there was mutual trust between teammates. That was the most intimate and warm feeling they had. Other than Su Mei and Su Wenming, the other two were men. The oldest among them was Wang Buren, who was already 39 years old. The other one was the same as Su Mei and Su Wenming. He was also in his 20s, and his name was Dong Xiu. Su Mei, Su Wenming, Wang Buren, and Dong Xiu were recommended by Principal Ma of the Min City Military Academy by Yu Xiaoluo to participate in this hunting school. Including Yun Jian, Principal Ma recommended a total of 5 people to participate in the hunting school selection in Country Z. Of course, other than Principal Ma, who could nominate talents, other officers from all over the country who were at the same level as Principal Ma, or even higher than him, could nominate talents to participate in the Z Country hunting school selection. The reason why the selection was held in Z Country was because the mortality rate of the hunting school was too high. Before sending the special forces to the hunting school, they had to select the best talents, right? If he felt that a person was not bad and directly sent him to the hunting school, he would easily die in the hunting school if he was not strong enough. This also greatly increased the mortality rate. Hence, Z Country selection was held. Only the top 3 would be qualified to represent Z Country and be sent to the hunting school. The 5 people recommended by Principal Ma, including Yun Jian, could be considered enemies with the other officers' recommendations. If Yun Jian was selected as one of the 3 members to represent Z Country in the hunting school, Principal Ma's reputation would be greatly enhanced. Hence, as soon as Yun Jian arrived at the entrance of the selection, she was the center of attention from the members recommended by different officers. Team Monarch Slashing God was famous, but only in Zhe Province. Other than Zhe Province, even if people had heard of Yun Jian's name, they would not be shocked. Most of the people who came to the selection were from other provinces. Moreover, some of them knew that Yun Jian was good. Not only would they not be impressed, they would even make things difficult for Yun Jian. Hence, as soon as Yun Jian got out of the car, she became the center of attention of a large group of special forces from different provinces. There was even a special forces soldier who was about 30 years old with medium height and build who circled Yun Jian a few times before teasing Yun Jian in front of everyone. "Little sister, you have come to our selection field to select a place to go to the hunting school. Everyone, take it easy. Don't hurt the little girl during the competition." Chapter 16:13. Stop laughing. Everyone gather. Listening to the mockery directed at Yun Jian by people from different regions, Yu Xiaoluo walked over with a grim face and growled. Although Yu Xiaoluo was young, his official position was higher than everyone present. Most importantly, Yu Xiaoluo was the person in charge of this selection. To put it bluntly, Yu Xiaoluo was one of the judges of the selection. Therefore, the people who were laughing at Yun Jian immediately froze and no longer dared to laugh. Yun Jian looked very young. Anyone with a discerning eye could tell that she was underage. The people who came here were not young. The oldest one was already in his 40s, close to his 50s. The youngest ones were Su Mei, Su Wenming, and Dong Xiu. Of course, even if Su Mei, Su Wenming, and Dong Xiu were considered young, they were still at least 25 years old. After all, those who could go to the hunting school must have a certain level of strength. Today was just a selection to select 3 members who could represent Country Z to go to the hunting school. Therefore, the people who came were not young. Usually, those who were strong had to go through a few years of training to achieve great achievements. By the time they reached this level, they were not young anymore. Therefore, when the group of people saw Yun Jian, it was not without reason that they laughed and mocked her. Damn it, this group of people is doing it on purpose. Just ignore them. Here, Sister Mold will protect you. Su Mei saw that the group of people swaggered away after Yu Xiaoluo finished talking to them. She stood beside Yun Jian, patted Yun Jian's shoulder, and snorted. "Do you want your little sister to grow moldy with you by protecting her?" Go away, it's more useful to have your brother protect you. Su Wenming came over and joined in. He even joked with Su Mei. After Su Wenming came over and said this, Su Mei slapped Su Wenming away. Then, she opened her mouth and glared at Su Wenming. Brother Wenming. Are you being civilized today? Su Mei bickered with Su Wenming and gritted her teeth. Pfft. Dong Xiu, who was standing at the side with a delicate face, coughed lightly to cover her laughter. Yun Jian only raised her red lips slightly and didn't say much. Come, come, come. Everyone is here. Gather. Find your own formation. Let's first briefly explain the rules of this selection. At this moment, a middle-aged man in his 40s with a square face and a serious expression stood not far away and waved at all the Special Forces soldiers present. This middle-aged man was the main person in charge of this selection, and his name was Duan Muqiao. There were a total of 100 people from the Special Forces participating in the selection, and all of them had arrived. Hearing Duan Muqiao's beckoning, Yun Jian followed the crowd and casually lined up with Su Mei and Su Wenming. Since everyone is here, then I'll first talk about the process of our selection this time. Duan Muqiao cleared his throat and officially opened his mouth. Everyone here is the best special forces from all over the country. At the same time, we all share the same dream, which is to enter a hunting school to further our studies. As for me, I won't beat around the bush. Our selection has its own rules. Everyone knows what kind of place the hunting school is and how high the mortality rate is. Therefore, in our selection, any one of you may be eliminated at any time during the competition. I'll say something that no one likes to hear, but it must be said. That is, if you're not strong enough, in this month's selection competition, those who lose will stop the competition midway and pack up and leave. This is for your own good. If you're not strong enough, only death awaits you if you're sent to the hunting school. Also, from the moment you enter the selection, your previous name will no longer be used. We'll give you a new random number. In this month, the number will be your name. The moment she received the number, Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. Her number was 006. Chapter 1614. Duan Muqiao cleared his throat and continued when he saw that all the numbered cards had been randomly distributed to each member. The number in your hands will be your name in the selection field. From now on, unless you are eliminated from the selection field, the number in your hands will be your name. Do you hear me clearly? We hear you clearly. Everyone replied loudly. Hearing this, the person in charge of the selection field, Duan Muqiao, nodded lightly. Then, he turned around and handed over some instructions to the other person in charge before leaving. Duan Muqiao was not only the person in charge of the selection field this time, but he was also the overall person in charge of the selection field. As the overall person in charge, Duan Muqiao would not appear at the selection field all the time. Today was the start of the selection field, so Duan Muqiao appeared here to announce the rules. After Duan Muqiao left, Yu Xiaolua waved at everyone. Everyone, enter the selection field and pack up your things. Our selection competition will begin soon. The moment they heard that the qualifiers were about to start so soon and that there was no chance for them to take a breather, everyone present took a deep breath. However, no one said a word of objection. No one would wait for you to adapt to the environment. If you said a word of no, you would be directly kicked out of the selection field. Yun Jian, what's your number? Su Mei asked excitedly in Yun Jian's ear after the assembly was dismissed. 006, Yun Jian narrowed her eyes and uttered nonchalantly. 006, this number was exactly the same as the number she had when she first entered an Hun organization in her previous life. In her previous life, when she first entered an Hun organization, she used numbers to refer to each other. Only after a small number of people survived were they allowed to use their own numbers. Heh, we're in luck. My number is 099. This number is second from the bottom. That's good enough. Su Wenming came up from the side and mocked himself with a smile. You can go in now. Wang Buren, the oldest and most composed of the five, spoke up. Wang Buren's words carried a thick sense of awkwardness. Therefore, as soon as Wang Buren finished speaking, everyone present obeyed and walked through the entrance of the selection field. Just as she was about to enter the venue, Yun Jian's phone beeped. She opened the message and saw that it was a message from Chu Ning. It was clear as day. When he opened it, he saw the content of the message. Yun Jian, you have to do your best. Although we can't be there to cheer you on, we, Team Monarch, will support you from behind. I believe you can do it. Seeing this message, Yun Jian narrowed her eyes slightly. She didn't reply, but squeezed her phone and hid it back in her pocket. Then, she followed Su Mei and the others into the selection field. Everyone who has a mobile phone or electronic device, put it here. Mobile phones are not allowed during the selection period. A man in military uniform stood there and shouted with a loudspeaker. Little sister, are you here to participate in the selection with us? Don't you think we should go easy on you? Huh? There was a group of people who were dressed decently. They were all in their 20s and looked average, but they were eyeing Yun Jian's team like a ruffian. One of them, a man who had just turned 25 and was rather good-looking, was looking at Yun Jian with a teasing and disdainful gaze. Like Yun Jian and her team, this group of people came from the same military officer. They were the ones who had mocked Yun Jian at the entrance just now. This guy's name is Zhou Duanzheng. His military officer isn't on good terms with our Vice-Chancellor Ma. He's always picking fights, so just ignore him. Wang Buren stood beside Yun Jian and told Yun Jian. A portion of people who came to the selection field were not really going to the hunting school. They were only here to obstruct those who were at odds with them. Like Zhou Duanzheng and his team. Chapter 16-15. After Yun Jian responded, she placed the phone in the box in front of the man in military uniform who was shouting through the loudspeaker. The selection competition lasted for a month. During this month, cell phones were not allowed to appear. Yun Jian had no intention of using a cell phone, so she placed the phone in the box easily. Just as she placed the phone in the box and was about to turn around, Zhou Duanzheng and the others, who had spoken to Yun Jian contemptuously, blocked Yun Jian's way. What are you doing? When Su Mei saw this, she pushed through the crowd and leaned toward Yun Jian. Su Wenming, Wang Buren, and Dong Xiu also stood in front of Yun Jian without hesitation. Su Mei and the others thought that Yun Jian was their junior and needed to be protected. They knew that Yun Jian must have some ability to be here. There were about 10 people in Zhou Duanzheng's group. It was obvious that the military officer who sent Zhou Duanzheng's group to the selection competition was stronger than Principal Ma, so he was given more slots than Principal Ma. At this moment, Zhou Duanzheng was surrounding Yun Jian's group. With Zhou Duanzheng as the leader, the group surrounded Yun Jian's group of 5. After a while, Zhou Duanzheng looked at Yun Jian contemptuously and said, "Little girl, I think you know what's good for you. How about you leave the selection competition in 3 days? I'll reward you with candy." Zhou Duanzheng looked at Yun Jian from the corner of his eyes as he spoke. Leave in 3 days? Are you threatening her to forfeit? You're too. Su Mei was inexperienced after all. She stared at Zhou Duanzheng with wide eyes. Just as she opened her mouth to speak, Wang Buren held her back. Wang Buren was already 39 years old. He had been with Principal Ma for many years, so he knew a lot about this kind of thing. Zhou Duanzheng's group came over to threaten them because they had more people. Of course, the reason why Zhou Duanzheng's group would openly target Yun Jian, Su Mei, and the others was because of the person who sent them here. It was because the person who recommended Zhou Duanzheng and the others to participate in the selection was at odds with Principal Ma, who recommended Yun Jian and the other 4 to participate in the selection. This led to the current situation. The reason why Wang Buren didn't want Su Mei to continue talking about this was because it wasn't appropriate to talk about it. After all, Zhou Duanzheng and the others had the advantage in numbers. Little sister, let me give you a piece of advice. If you know what's good for you, then obediently leave. You won't get a single spot in this year's hunting school. If you're smart, hand it over, or else. Zhou Duanzheng didn't continue. However, everyone present knew what Zhou Duanzheng was about to say. Alright, let's go, Zhou Duanzheng said rudely. Turning around, the group headed back to their residence. However, just as they took 2 steps, a voice that was as pleasant as the sound of nature came from behind them, but it was also ear-piercing. If people like you enter the hunting school, you will definitely die. This voice was as pleasant as the sound of nature, but every sentence was as sharp as needles. It immediately attracted the attention of Zhou Duanzheng and the others who were walking back to their residence. When Zhou Duanzheng and the others turned around and heard that these words came from Yun Jian, who was the youngest and supposedly the weakest, Zhou Duanzheng was stunned for a moment. Even Su Mei, Su Wenming, and the other 3 who were standing beside Yun Jian couldn't help but be stunned. Hey, listen, what did the little sister say? She said that if people like us enter the hunting school, we will definitely die. Zhou Duanzheng said rudely after he came back to his senses. This sentence once again attracted the attention of all the spectators around them. As Zhou Duanzheng spoke, he even whistled softly. Then, he looked at Yun Jian and continued to speak to Yun Jian while shaking the tips of his toes. From what the little sister is saying, you've been to the hunting school? Ah, ha ha ha. When Zhou Duanzheng said this, everyone around them laughed. Zhou Duanzheng's words were obviously denying Yun Jian. A little sister who was as young as a fart had been to the hunting school? What kind of joke was this? However, just as everyone present was chuckling, they heard Yun Jian's cold voice coming from the opposite side, which struck everyone's heartstrings. Chapter 16:16. Initially, she thought that Yun Jian would be deflated and unable to say anything after what she said. After all, the hunting school was located in a secluded place. Apart from the special forces who were sent to the hunting school for further training, the rest of the people, including the leaders, were not qualified to see the scenery of the hunting school. Most of the things that happened in the hunting school were usually told to the outside world by the special forces who had completed their training in the hunting school. Apart from that, the hunting school and the outside world were 2 different places that were tightly guarded. Of course, there were 1 or 2 people internationally who could enter and leave the hunting school as they pleased, fooling the principal of the hunting school. Of course, there were only 1 or 2 of them. Among these 2 people, the most representative one was Slaying God, the number 1 assassin on the international ranking. Therefore, after listening to what Yun Jian said, Zhou Duanzheng and everyone present looked at Yun Jian as if she was a joke. Pfft, little girl, how old are you? You said you've been to the hunting school? Zhou Duanzheng was choking with laughter. At that moment, there was no end to the laughter. Yun Jian, ignore them. Let's go. Even Su Mei could not take it when he spoke to an underage child in such a tone. She grabbed Yun Jian's hand and walked toward the dormitory. Everyone present was left laughing so hard that they were choking. Yun Jian did not say anything else. Sometimes, it was better to use actions to prove things rather than using words. The dormitory here was unisex. Of course, every bedroom was separated into male and female bedrooms. In other words, one of the bedrooms next door might be occupied by a woman, while the other one might be occupied by a man. However, in a bedroom with 4 beds, either 4 men or 4 women would be occupied by 4 men. Yun Jian and Su Mei walked into a girl's bedroom together. One bedroom here could accommodate 4 people. Girls only made up a single-digit number of people who came to participate in the preliminaries. Among them, there was no lack of people who relied on their connections to get in. For example, when Yun Jian and Su Mei walked into the bedroom, they saw a woman around 21 or 22 years old lying on the bed with her phone in her hand, chatting intimately with the person on the other end of the phone. "Hey, dear, I'm here. I'm in this dormitory. This place is so broken. Well, for you, I'm willing to stay here. Since you want to know the environment here, you should come here yourself. You're making me experience it for you. I can't even run 500 meters. When I go back, you have to make it up to me." Not only did this woman not hand over the phone, but she was also happily chatting with the person on the other end of the phone. There were only 3 people living in Yunjian's dormitory. In addition to Yunjian's dormitory, there was another female dormitory next door, which was full of 4 people. In other words, there were only 7 girls out of the 100 spots. Among them, there was no lack of people who had snuck in through connections. "All members, listen to my order. Please put on your military uniforms and gather at the gate in 10 minutes. If you don't put on your military uniforms and gather at the gate in 10 minutes, you will not have dinner tonight." An officer's shout came from the door. After the people in each dormitory heard the order, they started to get busy. The girl who was talking on the phone quickly hung up and changed her clothes. What the hell? Not even giving him food? This was too cruel. Did they have to be so cruel? The girl complained as she spoke. She looked as if she had been treated inhumanely. Yunjian narrowed her eyes. At this moment, she seemed to have found her old self in the organization. Cruel? Not being able to put on their military uniforms in 10 minutes and running to the gate without food was considered cruel? In her previous life, when she was in the organization, she had to put on her military uniform and go to the gate in half a minute. If she didn't do it, the machine gunners at the gate would enter and kill the people who were still in the dormitory. Half a minute later, the officer holding the loudspeaker blinked and suddenly saw Yunjian standing in front of him in her military uniform. He was stunned for a moment and couldn't help but be shocked. Only half a minute had passed. Normally, the fastest man would need about 2 minutes to put on his military uniform and run out. Why did this little girl only need so little time to change and come out so quickly? Chapter 16-17. The military officer with the loudspeaker was indeed stunned, but he quickly reacted and swallowed hard. He gave Yunjian a thumbs up and said, "Little girl, you're good." Yunjian just blinked and didn't say anything. 2 minutes later, the fastest group of people changed their clothes and ran out of their bedrooms. When they saw the small figure standing in the open space from afar, this group of men fiercely stomped their feet and almost spat out the word F***ck in fright. The group of men who changed their clothes and came out of their bedrooms all stomped their feet. The military officer with the loudspeaker saw the group of people standing there in a daze. He thought about how Yunjian changed her clothes and came out of her bedroom so quickly. Were they really no match for an underage little girl? The military officer standing there shouted at the group of people who were stunned, "What are you standing there for? Did you all go to take a dump? You all took so long to come out. Don't you want to eat dinner?" They couldn't even compete with a teenage girl. Only then did this group of people jog over and join the team. Zhou Duanzheng was also in the group. Because the military officer was there, Zhou Duanzheng didn't dare to say anything. He just glared at Yunjian. 12 minutes later, everyone had finally arrived. The last person came out after 12 minutes. That person was the woman who slept with Yunjian. Her name was Nan Linlin. Nan Linlin came out with light makeup. When she ran over, she thought she wasn't late and ran into the team happily. But as soon as she ran into the team, she was shouted at by the military officer with the loudspeaker, "You, get out of the team. You can't eat dinner tonight." Why? Nan Linlin was stunned. "You're late." The officer yelled at Nan Linlin without showing any pity for the fairer sex. After shouting, the military officer didn't look at Nan Linlin's expression. He turned around and looked at the crowd. You guys, you can't even compare to a little girl. Do you know that the little girl only used half a minute to change her clothes and come out, but what about you guys? All of you are dragging your feet. If you enter the hunting school like this, it will be a problem whether you can come out alive. The officer's anger was not without reason. What kind of place was the hunting school? Needless to say, the officer was doing this for the sake of everyone present. Half a minute? No, officer, are you saying that she only took half a minute to change and come out? This. The people around were stunned after hearing the officer's words, especially Zhou Duanzheng and the others who had just mocked and ridiculed Yun Jian. At this moment, they were dumbfounded. I saw it with my own eyes. How could it be fake? After the officer finished speaking, he immediately continued. Let's not talk about other things first. Let's get to know each other. My surname is Fang. You can call me Officer Fang. For the next month, I will accompany you and watch you train. All of your missions will be issued by me personally. I believe that at the entrance just now, our general manager has already told you some things about this. I won't say much here. Speaking until here, Officer Fang gestured to the few officers beside him and asked them to distribute the SOS device in their hands to everyone present. Officer Fang waited for everyone to hold the device in their hands before he continued speaking to the crowd. For your competition, we will use the strictest method. The only thing we can guarantee is that we won't harm your lives. This is the SOS device. You can activate it anytime and anywhere and then give up the qualification for the preliminaries. However, I still suggest that you don't give up so easily. Officer Fang had just finished speaking when a "kacha" sound was heard. Everyone suddenly heard the sound and looked towards the source of the sound. They saw Yun Jian throwing the SOS device in her hand to the ground and stomping on it hard, crushing it on the spot. Seeing this, everyone present exclaimed, "What the F***ck? Are you dumb?" Zhou Duanzheng, who had surrounded Yun Jian just now, couldn't help but ridicule. Why did you crush it? Don't you want to leave yourself a way out and a chance to choose to give up? Officer Fang was also shocked as he asked Yun Jian. Under everyone's gaze, Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. She calmly said something that made everyone's blood boil, but no one had the guts to say it. Only when I destroy my way out and only have the way forward to survive will I give it my all. Chapter 16-18. Yun Jian's words resounded through the clouds. Her heavenly voice made everyone present respect her. In a desperate situation, only those who destroyed all their paths of retreat would give their all in the face of a desperate situation. Yun Jian's words were the truth. Yun Jian's words shocked every special forces soldier present. A little girl in her teens was actually able to speak of such profound insights. How could he say such shocking words? What exactly had she experienced? Some people might never have thought of this in their entire lives. Some people thought of it, but they would never dare to be like Yun Jian. Most people were used to or liked to leave a path of retreat for themselves. But who would have thought that in order to succeed, they had to cut off their heart that was always thinking of taking a step back? Everyone at the scene was stunned, including Zhou Duanzheng and the others who were very unfriendly towards Yun Jian. For a moment, there was silence. Of course, not everyone was stunned. There was still one person who did not understand the meaning of Yun Jian's words. That person was Nan Linlin. Nan Linlin grew up in the palm of her parents' hands. Her parents were both soldiers. She was born in a military family and her status was not low. Therefore, Nan Linlin was able to use her connections to enter the selection field. Nan Linlin did not have any strength at all. What path of retreat? You're a girl who wants to fight and kill every day. Don't you feel ashamed? Nan Linlin's lips twitched. She rolled her eyes and stood on the spot with her arms crossed. After saying this, Nan Linlin placed her hands that were painted with nail polish on her delicate face like a dragonfly skimming the surface of the water. Women should treat themselves better. Go out and put on makeup or something. Fight and kill by yourself, but you still have to bring men along to fight and kill. I've never seen such a person before. As she spoke, Nan Linlin shook her head at Yun Jian and finished her assessment as if she was mumbling to herself. At this moment, everyone who was shocked by Yun Jian suddenly came to their senses. When they came to their senses, they wouldn't feel that Yun Jian's words were as shocking as they were at the beginning. You still have the nerve to say that you put on makeup? Where is this place? This is a training ground, not a place for you to put on makeup. I'll give you 10 minutes to clean up the mess on your face right now. Otherwise, you won't be allowed to eat for the rest of the day. When Officer Fong heard Nan Linlin talking to herself, he was so angry that he wanted to hit her. However, he forced himself to hold it in and growled in his calmest voice. Why can't I put on makeup? You didn't say that I couldn't put on makeup before I came in. Nan Linlin was still unconvinced and shouted back at Officer Fong. Officer Fong didn't know how to communicate with this young lady. He clenched his fists and forced himself to calm down. Then, he turned his head and announced to everyone present. All of you, go pack up and have dinner. We'll officially start tomorrow morning. After Officer Fong finished speaking, he turned around and continued to reason with Miss Nan Linlin. As for what Nan Linlin said about her just now, Yun Jian felt that it didn't hurt at all. She turned around and walked towards the dormitory. Yun Jian's long ponytail swayed with the wind. Her back view looked very energetic. Zhou Duanzheng and a dozen other people walked over and surrounded Yun Jian. Hey, little girl, you're Yun Jian, right? Zhou Duanzheng looked at Yun Jian while shaking his legs. After he finished speaking, Zhou Duanzheng continued to speak to Yun Jian without waiting for Yun Jian's reply. No matter what philosophy you say, you'll never get a place in the hunting school. If you don't want to leave with injuries, then get out of here, haha. With that, Zhou Duanzheng snapped his fingers and turned around to leave like a ruffian. Just as Zhou Duanzheng turned around, he suddenly felt someone kick the back of his knee. Then, he couldn't help but kneel forward. Chapter 16-19. Yun Jian kicked Zhou Duanzheng to the ground. Although Zhou Duanzheng was kneeling on the ground, he did not feel any pain. He turned around and glared at Yun Jian. Just then, the people who were with Zhou Duanzheng quickly ran over and helped him up. After being kicked down by a girl, Zhou Duanzheng naturally could not face it head-on. However, Zhou Duanzheng only clenched his fists and said through gritted teeth, "Let's go." After standing up awkwardly, Zhou Duanzheng turned his head and glared at Yun Jian. He said loudly, "Just you wait." Then, Zhou Duanzheng and the rest left the scene as fast as they could. Yun Jian, are you okay? What happened just now only took a few breaths. When Su Mei and Su Wenming ran over, Zhou Duanzheng had already left with his men. I'm fine. Yun Jian retracted her gaze. Her dark eyes darkened as she turned around and went back to her room. At night, Yun Jian lay on the top bunk bed in her room and stared at the ceiling. There were only 2 beds in the room, the top bunk and the bottom bunk. The bottom bunk was occupied by Su Mei and Nan Linlin. This is the place. Don't think of yourself as a pampered lady here. Since you're here, we'll treat you the same. No one will be treated differently. Your parents have told me that I won't give you any special privileges. So, you'll have to deal with your relationships well and work hard. Your parents want you to have the ability to protect yourself. You can train here. Also, if it's the elimination round, you can stay here as long as you can. Don't force yourself. At around 7:49 p.m., Chief Fong's voice came from Yun Jian's room. Okay, Chief Fong. I understand. Thank you. After Officer Fong's voice fell, a light but obedient female voice came from the gate. This woman's voice sounded soft, but it was peaceful. Okay, go in. After he finished speaking, Chief Fang turned around and left. Then, Yun Jian heard the door being pushed open. 2 seconds later, a gentle voice was heard. Hello everyone. My name is Luo Berry. There was no reply after he finished speaking. The girl who called herself Luo Berry paused. She was a little embarrassed, but she didn't back down. Hello everyone. I was sent here at the last minute. I guess you could say that I got in through the back door. But I'm not here to snatch anyone's spot. My parents thought that I was a little weak, so they sent me here, hoping that I could improve a little here. The girl who called herself Luo Berry was about 1.6 meters tall. She was very slim, but she looked a little weak. She was the type that people would want to protect. She looked like a 14-year-old girl, but in fact, she was 2 years older than Yun Jian. She was already 18 this year. Hello, my name is Su Mei. My nickname is Moldy. You can call me Sister Moldy. Hearing Luo Mei's words, Su Mei immediately got up from the bed and extended her hand to greet Luo Mei. When Luo Berry heard Su Mei talking to her, she was a little excited. She quickly reached out and held Su Mei's hand. Hello. He. Yun Jian. Yun Jian didn't get up from the bed. She was still lying on the bed, staring at the ceiling as she spoke to Luo Berry. From the conversation between Luo Berry and Chief Fang at the door, she could tell that Luo Berry was the daughter of a rich family. She was here purely to train her skills. Moreover, Luo Berry admitted that she got in through the back door as soon as she entered. Her tone was a little tactful, and she had the elegant demeanor of a rich family's daughter. Yun Jian had a good impression of her, so she introduced herself. Yun Jian, what a nice name, he. Luo Berry smiled at Yun Jian, then stuck her tongue out mischievously. Chapter 1620. Nan Linlin's roar was very loud. The room's soundproofing was not very good. Nan Linlin's roar could even be heard from the room next door. Nan Linlin's roar scared Luo Mei. Luo Mei took a step back in fright. She saw Nan Linlin glaring at her fiercely and roaring, "Why are you yelling? You think you're so great just because you got in through the back door? You're making it sound like no one knows how to get in through the back door. Be careful or I'll ask my dad to kick you out." Nan Linlin threatened her right away. Luo Mei was really scared. Nan Linlin also got in through the back door, but her purpose was different from Luo Mei's. Nan Linlin came for her boyfriend. Her boyfriend wanted to enter the hunting grounds, but he refused to come in himself. Thus, Nan Linlin had to help her boyfriend check out the situation here. Who asked her to love her boyfriend so much? After being yelled at by Nan Linlin, Luo Mei was stunned. Ignore her. Come here. Su Mei glared at Nan Linlin and pulled Luo Mei to sit on her lower bunk bed. Yun Jian slept on Su Mei's upper bunk. Now, there was only one upper bunk left in the room. It was right above Nan Linlin's bed. Nan Linlin was not young anymore. She was already 21 or 22 years old. She did not know how to give in to Luo Mei. Thank you. Sister Unlucky. Luo Mei was a little embarrassed to call Su Mei Sister Unlucky. However, seeing Su Mei's nonchalant expression, she did not back down. Don't be afraid. Sister Unlucky will protect you here. Su Mei also liked Luo Mei, so she could not help but say this. Okay. Luo Mei's innocent face immediately blushed and she nodded vigorously at Su Mei. Then, Luo Mei poked her head out from the lower bunk and looked at Yun Jian's upper bunk bed. She met Yun Jian's eyes and nodded slightly at Yun Jian. Nan Linlin snorted. Then, she turned around and ignored Yun Jian and the others. She continued to call them dear and continued to talk about her phone call. Wow, so you're all here for the hunting academy's quota? I feel that you're all so powerful. My parents think that I'm too weak, so they let me come here. Luo Mei looked at Su Mei and then at Yun Jian, asking with widened eyes. We're not as powerful as you think. Su scratched her head embarrassedly. To me, you're all powerful. Mei clapped her hands of the world naively. Let's sleep. We'll wake up at 5 tomorrow, Yun Jian said after listening to Luo Mei and Su Mei talk for a while. Okay. Berry nodded and changed into her pajamas. It was already 8 at night. Luo Mei turned Mei suddenly. Luo turned Mei was unlucky suddenly. Mei's Mei are Luo is was at like sleeping. I'm used to it, Yun Jian replied. All right. Luo Berry nodded slightly. Then, she folded her clothes, got onto the top bunk, and went to sleep. The night was as still as water. It was 2:51 in the morning. It was almost 3 o'clock in the morning, the time when people slept the best and entered the deep sleep stage. Woo! 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 Suddenly, the alarm went off. A familiar voice came from the speakers in every room. Everyone who heard the sound, please change your clothes within 5 minutes and gather at the door. If you don't change your clothes and gather at the door within 5 minutes, you'll be disqualified from the selection. Outside the door, Officer Fong was holding a loudspeaker. His voice was transmitted to every room. Basically, everyone would change into their pajamas before sleeping. There was no doubt about it, unless one was extremely lazy. Officer Fong looked at his watch. He estimated that Yun Jian would come out in 30 to 40 seconds. Officer Fong lowered his head to look at his watch. The moment he looked up, he saw Yun Jian's petite figure rushing towards him. The watch moved by 7 seconds and Yun Jian was already standing in front of him. Some people were still sleepy from his surprise attack. What about Yun Jian? She went from the dormitory to the gate in 7 seconds? Didn't she change her clothes before sleeping? Was she so alert? Even the advanced special forces couldn't achieve her speed. Chapter 1621. Officer Fong was once again shocked by Yun Jian. However, he saw Yun Jian standing in front of him in a neat military posture. She did not look like someone who had just woken up from a dream. In response, Officer Fong could only swallow hard. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. It was past 2 in the morning, and it was only a few minutes away from 3 in the morning. This was the time when a person was sleeping soundly. At this moment, the alarm suddenly sounded. Everyone was still in a daze, especially since it was the first time they had come to the selection field. However, Officer Fong had said that if they could not leave their dormitory and reach the gate within 5 minutes, they would be disqualified. At this moment, all the dormitories were agitated. One by one, they tried their best to put on their clothes. But even so, people would feel sleepy when they just woke up. Therefore, the first few men who ran out of the room only came out after about 3 to 4 minutes. They were all trained special forces, but they didn't expect Officer Fong to do such a thing. After all, this was something that had never happened before. Therefore, those who came out in about 3 minutes were already the fastest to react. They cursed in their hearts as they ran. What was going on? Why did he suddenly wake everyone up in the middle of the night? Luo Berry had already rushed out as fast as she could, but she was still a step too late. She took a little over 5 minutes. When she stood there, Luo Berry was already out of breath. Nan Linlin was not in a hurry at all. Although she did not put on makeup and come out, she still took about 10 minutes to gather at the gate. Officer Fong saw that everyone had already rushed out as fast as they could. His face darkened and he immediately relaxed his brows. Today is the first emergency gathering. Your performance is not bad, but it's not enough. In the future, the alarm will be sounded at any time and place. At that time, no matter what you are doing, you must put down the things in your hands, put on our military uniforms, and gather at the gate. Do you understand? Officer Fang said as he walked. Understood. Everyone replied loudly. All right, if you understand, go back to sleep. Today is the first day, so I won't punish anyone. But from now on, if there's an emergency gathering and you don't arrive at the gathering point within the stipulated time, you'll be disqualified and you'll have to pack up and leave. We don't accept idlers here. At this point, Officer Fang glared at Nan Linlin. Nan Linlin felt a little guilty after being glared at by Chief Fang. However, Nan Linlin suddenly glared back at Chief Fang and said confidently, Why are you looking at me? Nan Linlin, if you don't come out in time again, pack your luggage and go home. Chief Fang glanced at Nan Linlin. After being scolded, Nan Linlin rolled her eyes as she turned around and walked towards the dormitory. Are you crazy? Waking me up in the middle of the night, I'm already giving you face by coming out. Chief Fang naturally heard Nan Linlin's complaint, but he ignored it. Instead, he called out to Yun Jian, wait a minute. Yun Jian was about to turn back to the dormitory, but when she heard Chief Fang's call, she stopped in her tracks and turned around. Seeing that Yun Jian was stopped, Zhou Duanzheng and the others stopped in their tracks again. Perhaps it was because Yun Jian was quite outstanding during the day, many people stopped in their tracks and looked over. Chief Fang asked her, Yun Jian, have you had any similar training before? No. Yun Jian denied it without hesitation. Seeing that Yun Jian's sincere gaze did not seem to be lying, Chief Fang lowered his eyes and said, All right, I saw you rush from the dormitory to the gate in 7 seconds. Normal people can't do that, so I was a little surprised. It seems that you're very alert when you're sleeping. As soon as Chief Fang finished speaking, Zhou Duanzheng's silly voice was heard. Zhou Duanzheng and the others were dumbfounded. Chapter 1622. Zhou Duanzheng and the others stayed behind to listen to what Chief Fang was going to say to Yun Jian. Why was he being so secretive? Was he going to criticize Yun Jian? However, Zhou Duanzheng and the others didn't expect that Chief Fang would say that Yun Jian only took 7 seconds to run out of the dormitory. Is this real? Why not? Do you think you're the only ones who are capable, but Yun Jian isn't? Hearing Zhou Duanzheng's words, Su Mei was displeased. She immediately spoke to Zhou Duanzheng in an unpleasant tone. Especially in front of Chief Fang, Su Mei was even more rude to Zhou Duanzheng and the others. Zhou Duanzheng swallowed his saliva. Just as he was about to reply, Chief Fang said, Yun Jian did run from the dormitory to the gate in 7 seconds. I won't talk nonsense about this. There was no need for Chief Fang to spout nonsense on Yun Jian's behalf. Zhou Duanzheng was very displeased. Coincidentally, in front of Chief Fang, Zhou Duanzheng thought of a way to pick on Yun Jian. He looked at Yun Jian and asked in front of Chief Fang, then you don't change before going to bed? Is it so that you can look beautiful even when you sleep? Or is there another reason? Zhou Duanzheng asked this purely to make things difficult for Yun Jian. After all, Yun Jian stood out too much. This made Zhou Duanzheng very displeased. That's right. Yun Jian, why don't you change at night? Unexpectedly, Chief Fang was also interested in this matter. He turned to look at Yun Jian, narrowed his eyes, and asked Yun Jian with the same tone of interest. Chief Fang didn't want to know why Yun Jian didn't change at night. Instead, he wanted to know the reason why Yun Jian didn't change. As expected, Yun Jian didn't disappoint Chief Fang. She narrowed her eyes. Seeing that Chief Fang was sizing her up, her red lips curled up slightly. In the next second, she said calmly, intentional accident, unintentional accident, can happen at any time. She gave a 12-word answer. Anyone who learned Chinese would know the meaning of these 12 words. Anyone who was smart would know that Yun Jian was referring to accidents that could happen at any time. As for her, she had to be vigilant at all times. This way, she wouldn't get into an accident. Chief Fang, Zhou Duanzheng, and the others were once again shocked by Yun Jian's words. Yun Jian's performance was too outstanding. Her words and actions were awe-inspiring. However, every word that he said was very reasonable. However, before Chief Fang, Zhou Duanzheng and the others could continue to be stunned, a malicious voice to say, "Yun Jian, are you crazy? Your bag's to the middle of the road. You to make I duan don't be to make a disgusting to. It's to speak." At this moment, Nan Linlin was grabbing Yun Jian's bag and walking over. As she walked, she unzipped Yun Jian's bag very rudely and threw Yun Jian's bag on the ground. Nan Linlin's action was completely intentional. It was as if she was punishing Yun Jian for tripping over her bag and causing her to fall just now. However, when Nan Linlin unzipped the bag and threw it on the ground, the contents of the bag also scattered. There were all kinds of butterfly knives, as well as various blades and small knives hidden in the bag. There were more than 20 butterfly knives, all of which were collected by Muing for many years. Later, she gave them to Yun Jian. Everyone was shocked by the knives in Yun Jian's bag. However, what was even more shocking was the wooden box that rolled down in front of them. The box was made of sandalwood. It looked very new, but it also had an ancient charm. Officer Fang was dumbfounded when he saw the box. He exclaimed on the spot. He exclaimed, Isn't this the legendary sandalwood box that all the international bigwigs fought over but to no avail? It ended up in the hands of Slaying God, the #1 international secret agent. Chapter 1623. Nan Linlin's heart skipped a beat as she opened Yun Jian's bag to reveal the contents. She was shocked by Officer Fang's frantic reaction when he saw the sandalwood box falling out of the bag. When everyone present heard what Officer Fang said, they were all shocked without exception. Sandalwood box? The sandalwood box was a mysterious box. Since its appearance, countless international businessmen, politicians, and bosses had been fighting for it. However, the legendary sandalwood box had fallen into the hands of Slaying God, the #1 international secret agent. When the incident broke out, someone even released the picture of the sandalwood box being excavated from the ancient tomb. It even made the headlines of international newspapers. There were even well-known authoritative figures who released the news that the sandalwood box had been taken away by Slaying God, the #1 international secret agent. As for whether this was true, no one knew until now. Therefore, Officer Fang, who had seen the picture of the sandalwood box in the international newspaper headlines, recognized the outstanding box at first glance. He was shocked when he looked at the box in front of him. What's a sandalwood box? Nan Linlin was shocked when she saw the frenzied look on everyone's faces. She suppressed her shock and asked. The sandalwood box is an antique. It was priceless, and its value could not be measured by money. Moreover, it's rumored that the sandalwood box has been taken away by Slaying God, the #1 international secret agent. A man next to her saw that Nan Linlin didn't understand, so he explained. Priceless. Priceless? This stupid box? Nan Linlin was dumbfounded as she stared at the sandalwood box that rolled out of Yun Jian's bag in disbelief. Don't look at the box. If it's really a sandalwood box, its value can't be measured with money. It's not something that can be bought with just a few billion. Someone added after Nan Linlin's question. A few billion. It's not enough to buy it? Nan Linlin was completely dumbfounded. Nan Linlin's family was quite rich. That was the reason why she had developed such an arrogant and despotic personality. Even so, a few billion was an astronomical figure to Nan Linlin's family. What was more, a few billion was not enough to buy this box. It's a high-end imitation. It's not real. Just as everyone present turned to look at Yun Jian and waited for her explanation, Yunjian's words suddenly spread and reached everyone's ears. High-end textiles? Officer Fang was shocked. Yes. On the other side, Yunjian had already picked up the sandalwood box from the ground and quickly put it into her school bag. Then, she lied without blushing or skipping a beat. The sandalwood box was real. Ever since she returned from Yulong mainland and regained part of her memory, Yunjian had been carrying the sandalwood box with her at all times. No one questioned Yunjian's explanation. That's right, how could a real sandalwood box appear here? What about these sabers? Chief Fang asked as he pointed at the various butterfly knives that were spilled out of Yunjian's bag. My friend gave it to me. Yunjian calmly picked up the bag and slung it over her shoulder. Her calm demeanor and superb lying skills had deceived everyone present. Especially Zhou Duanzheng and his group, they heaved a huge sigh of relief. Zhou Duanzheng and his group were scared out of their wits by Yunjian's behavior just now. Only now did their expressions return to normal. Yunjian picked up the items and slung her school bag over her shoulder before walking towards the dormitory. Just as she reached Nan Linlin's side, she said to Nan Linlin without hiding anything. You should be glad that you're in the selection area. Otherwise, I'll stab you with as many sabers as they fall out of my bag. Once Yunjian said that, everyone present was stunned. She did not hide the meaning of her words at all. This time, not only was Zhou Duanzheng, who was hostile to Yunjian, stunned, Nan Linlin was so shocked that she exclaimed to Yunjian, "How dare you? Let's see if I dare." As soon as Yunjian finished speaking, she flipped her hand and a butterfly knife appeared in her hand. Then, she swung the butterfly knife in front of Nan Linlin. A large chunk of Nan Linlin's hair was immediately shaved off. However, Yunjian's knife skills were precise. Apart from that chunk of hair, the tip of the knife did not touch Nan Linlin's clothes at all. By the time everyone reacted, the butterfly knife in Yunjian's hand had disappeared without a trace. Seeing this, everyone's expression changed. Chapter 1624. Before this, Yunjian had never shown her skills in front of everyone. However, she had shocked everyone with just a few moves. The moment she saw Yunjian's amazing skills, Luo Mei exclaimed, "She's so powerful." Luo Mei came in through the back door. She was here purely to train her skills and not to compete for a spot in the hunting school. Therefore, the people around her did not pay much attention to Luo Mei. Meanwhile, Nan Linlin, who was shocked by Yunjian's swift swordsmanship, was shocked when she saw Yunjian cut off the hair on the side of her shoulder. When she came to her senses, her face was so pale that she could not even speak. It was too scary. Yunjian gave her the feeling that she was a demon from hell. Like Luo Mei, Nan Linlin came in through the back door and did not have any skills. At first, she thought that Yunjian was just like her and did not have any skills because of her young age. However, after seeing Yunjian's terrifying swordsmanship, Nan Linlin was completely shocked. Even Zhou Duanzheng and the others who were standing far away were shocked by Yunjian's actions. She was just a teenage girl. However, from Yunjian's skills, they could tell that Yunjian's skills were, ahem. Go back to sleep. Officer Fang's urging voice rang out before anyone could think too much about it. Officer Fang was especially shocked. Fortunately, before Yunjian entered the selection field, Yu Xiaoluo had told him that Yunjian was a good seedling. Officer Fang was still doubtful before, but now it seemed that it was true. It was late at night. It was already 3:00 in the morning. The time to wake up was 5:00. If they went back to sleep now, they could rest for another 2 hours. Everyone did not think too much about it and went back to their dorms to rest. Yunjian only slept for an hour. She woke up at 4:00 for a morning jog. When it was around 5:00, the morning bell rang. Officer Fang was standing in the open space waiting for everyone when he saw a small figure walking towards him. The moment he saw Yun Jian, Officer Fang was stunned. Then he looked at Yun Jian and asked, "Why are you up so early for a morning run?" "Yes," Yun Jian replied briefly. Although Officer Fang was slightly shocked, he still waved his hand at Yun Jian and said, "All right, return to the team." Normally, which young girl at Yun Jian's age wasn't thinking about love? Or fantasize about their other half? What about Yun Jian? She, on the other hand, did not take the usual path. Every day, she only thought about how to train herself and how to improve her strength. In less than 5 minutes, everyone got up and returned to the team. Perhaps it was because Officer Fang had said that they would be disqualified if they didn't come out in 5 minutes. Even the slower Luo Berry and the absent-minded Nan Linlin came out in 5 minutes. Officer Fang held a stack of number plates in his hand. Seeing that everyone had arrived in the stipulated time, he nodded in satisfaction. He first praised everyone and then went straight to the point. "Everyone performed very well today. I'm very satisfied. Continue to maintain your speed in the future." After praising, Officer Fang waved the number plates in his hand and continued, "These number plates in my hand are your numbers. From now on, you have to hang the number plates on your waist at all times. You are not allowed to call each other by their real names in the selection field. You are only allowed to call each other by their numbers. If there is a violation, you will be disqualified. Do you all understand? Don't blame the selection field for having many rules. From time to time, they would be disqualified. All the rules of the selection field were related to the hunting school. In the hunting school, it might not be as simple as being disqualified." "Understood." Everyone responded. "Then, from now on, your selection competition will officially begin. This selection will last for a month. In the first 20 days, you will be required to complete a difficult and dangerous subject under actual combat conditions every day. If you can't complete it, you will be disqualified on the same day. In the last 10 days, everyone who is not disqualified will compete one-on-one. The final 3 winners will be the top 3 in the hunting school." Chapter 1625. Also, I'm sure everyone knows that Luo Berry and Nan Linlin are not competing for the hunting school spots. Hence, they will participate in our training but will not be disqualified. The 2 of them will not affect anyone. As Fang Chang spoke, he did not forget to mention one more thing. Luo Berry and Nan Linlin were different from everyone else. They were not special forces and would not compete for the hunting school spots. Hearing this, the 100 people around them let down their guard as they were not a threat to Luo Berry and Nan Linlin. With Officer Fang's final words, the selection officially began. In fact, in the first few days of the selection round, it was not difficult for special forces to pass the 20 dangerous subjects under actual combat conditions. Out of the 20 tasks, the first 19 were to test the physical standards of the participants. For example, bomb throwing, cross-country with 15 kilograms of weights for 5 kilometers, single and parallel bars for apparatus, 100-meter prone shooting for infantry, and so on. As long as one could achieve the required results in one go, they would be able to pass. Furthermore, it was easy but also nerve-wracking to pass the tests every day. This was because there was only one test per day. If there was a mistake, one would be disqualified. However, other than Luo Berry and Nan Linlin, the rest were the best special forces in Country Z. Naturally, there would not be any mistakes. Hence, in these 19 days, other than one special forces soldier who accidentally made a mistake and was disqualified on the spot, the rest passed the tests. In these 19 days, Yun Jian's performance was very ordinary. Like all the other special forces soldiers, she completed the tasks at a reasonable speed. Yun Jian did not display any shocking abilities. This made Zhou Duanzheng and the rest think that Yun Jian's terrifying swordsmanship was just a coincidence. Hence, Zhou Duanzheng and his gang's taunts and arrogance toward Yun Jian began to spread like wildfire. On the 20th day, on the open field, Officer Fong went back to his place to drink water. After the intense exercise, everyone sat on the field to rest. Some of them went back to their places to drink water and change their clothes. This was because the last of the 20 dangerous subjects under actual combat conditions would be carried out soon. The last one was undoubtedly the most difficult of the 20 dangerous subjects. According to Officer Fong, the elimination rate for the last one was as high as 80%. In other words, most of them would be eliminated. Therefore, everyone present would do their best to prevent themselves from being disqualified. On the spacious lawn, Yun Jian was wearing a short-sleeved shirt and black denim pants. She was lying on the lawn with one leg stretched out and the other bent lazily. She gently placed her hand above her eyes, trying to use her arm to cover the burning and eye-piercing sun above her head. Su Mei and the others sat beside Yun Jian. Seeing that Yun Jian wasn't afraid at all, Su Mei couldn't help asking, 006, aren't you afraid of being eliminated? After 19 days, everyone had gotten used to calling each other by their numbers. I'm not afraid. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes and moved her hand away slightly. She narrowed her eyes and looked at the scorching sun above her head. After a moment of silence, she continued, because I won't be eliminated. His words sounded ordinary, but they were surprisingly full of confidence. Ahahaha, do you think you won't be eliminated just because you said so? I really don't know what kind of courage you have to say that. The elimination rate for today's subject is as high as 80%. You didn't stand out in the previous 19 physical tests. They weren't as good as our 015. Oh. At first, you bragged about yourself to the sky and really made yourself into a powerful figure that no one could compare to. But in the end? Your previous 19 physical tests were just so-so. Chapter 1626. The 015 that Zhou Duanzheng was talking about was a person called Wu Ningnai. Wu Ningnai was one of the more outstanding people in Zhou Duanzheng's group. In the first 19 days, Wu Ningnai's strength could be considered the most outstanding of all the special forces. Not only did he get first place in the cross-country race, he got first place in almost 50% of all the events. He could be considered a very eye-catching existence. In comparison, Yun Jian's results, every time she just passed the passing line, not much more, not much less. This made those who originally thought that Yun Jian was very strong let down their guard against Yun Jian. They originally thought that she was some powerful person. Previously, she was praised by Chief Fong as the one who gathered the fastest, and a sandalwood box even fell out of her bag. In the end, they found out that Yun Jian didn't change into her pajamas when she slept, and rushed out as soon as the alarm sounded. If she wasn't fast enough, a sow could give birth to 1,000 piglets in one go. And that sandalwood box, it was complete nonsense. She had the nerve to show off that it was fake. Pfft. Zhou Duanzheng secretly laughed twice, then stared straight at Yun Jian, curled his lips, and looked coldly at Yun Jian. Wu Ningnai, who Zhou Duanzheng was talking about, stretched out his hand in front of Yun Jian, Su Mei, and the others to show off his muscles, then raised his head proudly and looked at Yun Jian. I heard that the last event is a competition of teamwork. Our team has 015, so we will definitely win. As for you guys, when Zhou Duanzheng said this, he looked up and down at Yun Jian's group, then made a few tisk-tisk sounds, paused, then continued, you guys, just wait to pack up and leave. Let's go. After Zhou Duanzheng said those arrogant words, he waved at everyone and turned to leave. You guys. Even if Zhou Duanzheng was talking about Yun Jian, Su Mei was still quite angry by Zhou Duanzheng's words. She was about to curse back, but Yun Jian grabbed her hand. If they do this, I couldn't take it lying down. Su Mei was about to speak when she was interrupted by Yun Jian. Don't take the words of an ant seriously, Yun Jian said indifferently. Ants? Yun Jian compared Zhou Duanzheng and his group to ants. After hearing Yun Jian's words, Su Mei really didn't care about what Zhou Duanzheng said. Everyone, gather. At this moment, Officer Fang, who had gone back to his residence to drink water, had returned. Not only did Officer Fang come back, but he also brought back more than 10 soldiers. Each of these soldiers was carrying more than 10 military backpacks. After they put down the military backpacks, Officer Fang stood in front of them again. Our 20th subject is a dangerous subject under actual combat conditions. It's both simple and difficult. In a moment, each of you will be given a backpack. Take this backpack, and we will bring you to an entrance called the Misty Forest. The objective of the mission is to depart from the entrance of the Misty Forest and walk out of the Misty Forest in the shortest time possible. We will be waiting for you at the designated destination. The first 20 people to walk out of the Misty Forest will advance. In addition, you are in groups of 5. You can freely form groups. The first 20 people to reach the destination, which is the members of 4 groups, will advance. In addition, this backpack contains water, food, a compass, and a series of other things. Someone once walked out of the Misty Forest in the shortest time possible, using 24 hours and 39 minutes, so I wish you all good luck. Chapter 1627. By the way, there are many ferocious beasts in the Misty Forest. If you are surrounded by ferocious beasts, the chances of you dying are very high. Therefore, during the competition, you can press the emergency button at any time. Our people will definitely arrive and save you before anything happens to you. However, it also means that you'll be disqualified. Of course, it's up to you. Alright, if you're ready, come and register your team of 5 and get ready to go. Officer Fang reminded him once again in a very earnest and heartfelt manner. They chose to go to the fog forest because it was very dangerous. However, they were all special forces and had gone through inhuman training. Even if they encountered beasts, they could protect themselves for a short period of time. Normally, nothing would happen in the fog forest. Moreover, they were all special forces who were competing for a place to go to the hunting school. They had to go to places like the hunting school, let alone a place like the fog forest. If they did not even dare to go to the fog forest, they would not even need to compete for a place to go to the hunting school. After everyone put on their equipment and gathered, they were ready to depart. Luo Berry and Nan Linlin would not participate in such a dangerous activity. Therefore, they stood aside and watched all the special forces put on their equipment and prepare to depart. After interacting with each other for a few days, Nan Linlin's attitude towards Yun Jian was very bad. On the contrary, Luo Berry's relationship with Yun Jian and Su Mei was very good. At this moment, Luo Berry was looking at Yun Jian and Su Mei with a worried expression. Seeing that Yun Jian and Su Mei were about to take the bus to the fog forest, Luo Berry waved at Yun Jian and Su Mei, "Come back safely. You have to get first place. I believe in you." "Yes, we will." Su Mei gestured at Luo Berry. Yun Jian was far away. Although she did not say anything to cheer Luo Berry up, she winked at Luo Berry as a response. After that, a few buses brought Yun Jian and her team to the entrance of the fog forest. The Misty Forest was indeed as its name suggested. Looking from the cement road beside the Misty Forest, the top of the forest was covered by a thick layer of fog. The entire forest seemed to be covered by a thick layer of fog. "You can go in now," Chief Fang said to everyone with his arms crossed. As soon as he said that, all the members of the team swarmed in. Everyone wanted to enter the dense fog forest first so that they could leave the dense fog forest one step faster than others. Yun Jian naturally formed a team with Su Mei and the others. Seeing that the other teams had already walked towards the Misty Forest, Yun Jian stopped Su Mei and the others. She pursed her lips and said, "No rush." Huh. Although Su Mei didn't understand, she didn't force her way in. Yun Jian walked forward and rummaged through the soil at the entrance of the Misty Forest as if she was looking for something. After rummaging through the surrounding soil, she followed Su Mei and the others into the misty forest. They are far away. Let's go faster, Su Mei said. Yun Jian's eyes darkened, but she didn't say anything. After walking for about an hour, they bumped into Zhou Duanzheng and the others. It wasn't just Zhou Duanzheng's team. There were also a few other teams resting where they were. After walking for an hour, everyone was naturally tired. Their drive wasn't as strong as before. Yun Jian and the others didn't walk very fast, so they could still continue walking. But just as they were about to continue, they were stopped by Zhou Duanzheng and the others. Zhou Duanzheng even teased Yun Jian with a smile, "Yo, you guys still want to continue walking? If you meet any ferocious beasts, don't come crying to us for help." As soon as Zhou Duanzheng mentioned ferocious beasts, Yun Jian frowned. "Whoa." Just then, the roars of ferocious beasts came from afar. No way. Zhou Duanzheng's face instantly darkened. Ferocious beasts were really coming? Could it be that his crow's beak had hit the jackpot? "It's a pack of wolves," Yun Jian said as she took out 2 butterfly knives from her backpack and held them in her hands. "Don't scare us." It sounded like the cry of a bird. "How could we meet such a dangerous species as a pack of wolves the moment we enter? Do you think you have good hearing and can hear clearly that it's a pack of wolves?" One of the people in Zhou Duanzheng's group chuckled coldly at Yun Jian. But just as this person finished speaking, ferocious wolves leaped out of the forest one after another. All the wolves surrounded them ferociously. This time, everyone who was sitting where they were stood up. The expressions of Zhou Duanzheng and the person who said Yun Jian was spouting nonsense changed drastically. Especially the person who said Yun Jian was spouting nonsense. When he saw this scene, he immediately exclaimed, "F***ck, it's really a pack of wolves." Chapter 1628. Zhou Duanzheng, Wu Ningnai, and the others were dumbfounded. They watched in shock as one wild wolf after another flew out from the surrounding forest and then naturally formed a large circle, surrounding the people present. "Whoa! Whoa!" There seemed to be some unknown music coming from afar. The moment they heard the music, the wolves did not surround everyone at the same time. Instead, they surrounded everyone in the center of the circle and raised their heads to howl loudly. The howls were deafening for a moment. 80% of the special forces who participated in the 20th combat event were resting here. They were now trapped in the wolf pack with Yun Jian and the rest. The moment they saw the wolf pack, everyone was shocked at first, then their expressions tensed up. Everyone present was the best special forces from all over Country Z. Even if they were to face a wolf pack, they would not lose their lives here. Zhou Duanzheng was in the weaker batch, so when he saw the wolf pack, he was in a more pathetic state. The other special forces were not the same. When they saw the wolf pack, they only tensed up and silently picked up the weapons in their hands. It was unfortunate to encounter a wolf pack, but as a special forces soldier, they did not have to complain about encountering a wolf pack or be unlucky. They had to be ready for battle at all times. The wolf pack was still leaping out of the forest. All the special forces soldiers looked at the wolf pack that surrounded them and did not move. "Why are there so many wolves?" Su Mei furrowed her brows. She grabbed a dagger from her military backpack and held it in her palm. She looked at the wolves leaping out of the woods one after another. Her expression was extremely bad. "Everyone, don't fight. Work in pairs. Back to back, protect your back, and kill the wolves head-on." Wang Buren's voice was heard at this moment. After all, Wang Buren was considered strong. He was old and calm, so he was more meticulous in his work. Hence, as soon as Wang Buren's words fell, many special forces soldiers listened to his advice and each found a trustworthy partner. Back to back, they faced the wolf pack head-on. Zhou Duanzheng, who was just mocking Yun Jian and crying for help, was now scared. He did not even care about Yun Jian. He stared at the wolf pack, afraid that the wolves would rush up and bite him to death. Just as the group was on high alert, Yunjian's eyes flashed. She moved the butterfly knife in her hand and stared at the wolves for a while. In the next second, Yunjian put away the butterfly knife. 006, what's wrong with you? Give me your back, let's kill the wolves together. Su Mei saw that Yunjian was not moving at all. She frowned and then held the dagger, alert to see if the wolves around them were charging at her. Huh. She must have been scared silly. I told you, a girl like her, if she can't accept this cruel reality, she should go home by herself. Zhou Duanzheng had Wu Ningnai behind him, so he was very arrogant. While guarding against the wolves around them, he did not forget to mock Yunjian. However, just as Zhou Duanzheng finished speaking, the Special Forces soldiers who were ready to kill the wolves saw Yunjian's eyes flash. She actually walked straight toward the wolves. 006. Are you crazy? Seeing Yunjian walking toward the wolves, Wang Buren saw this and his eyes widened. He was so scared that he shouted. She really wants to die. Zhou Duanzheng could not help but sigh. However, before he finished speaking, everyone saw Yunjian raise her leg and kick the wolf standing in front of her. It's over. Everyone present thought that Yunjian was done for and was about to be surrounded by the wolves. However, when the surrounding wolves saw that the wolf was kicked away by Yunjian and received Yunjian's cold aura, the wolves were so scared that they instantly made way for her. What was going on? She had the ability to make the wolves make way for her? This was not the end. Yunjian walked forward for about 20 meters and walked under a very large tree. From behind the tree, she pulled out a man in camouflage. After Yunjian pulled out the man in camouflage, she dragged the man to the ground. Looking at him, this person was actually a Special Forces soldier under Officer Fang. The Special Forces soldiers in the distance were shocked, but they heard Yunjian's voice again. She coldly curled her lips and said with a faint smile, controlling the wolves to attack us, is it fun? If I'm not wrong, if we continue walking, we will encounter all kinds of ferocious beasts. It's only a 4-hour walk from the entrance to the end of the misty forest. If we encounter ferocious beasts, the fastest speed we can reach the end is 24 hours. By the time we've chased the beasts away, it's already dark. We have to spend the night in the forest to ensure our safety. Officer, may I ask if I'm right? As soon as Yunjian finished speaking, the Special Forces soldier under Officer Fang's command had a drastic change in expression. He looked as if he had been completely seen through by Yunjian. Then, this Special Forces soldier took out his walkie-talkie and said anxiously to Officer Fang on the other end of the walkie-talkie. Chapter 1629. Officer Fang had already reached the end of the fog forest. He had ordered his men to set up a few tents at the end of the fog forest. He planned to spend the night there. According to his calculations, the fastest Special Forces that entered the fog forest would take at least 24 hours to get out. Hence, he was not in a hurry at all. Officer Fang stayed at the end. There was a rocking chair here. He sat on the rocking chair and rocked back and forth, enjoying the sunlight. It had already been an hour. The first wave of wolves reared by his men should have surrounded them by now. He was really looking forward to it. When would they come out? There was also the good seedling that he had just discovered this year. 006. Would she break the record of being the fastest person to lead her team out of the misty forest? He was really looking forward to it, at this moment. A military jeep drove over from the side of the cement road. When Officer Fang saw the person who got out of the jeep, he immediately stood up from his rocking chair and saluted the middle-aged man who got out of the jeep. Sir. The middle-aged man who came down from the military jeep was Officer Fang's superior, Commander Ma. Commander Ma saw Officer Fang saluting him. He waved his hand and stopped Officer Fang from saluting him. He smiled kindly at Officer Fang. After Commander Ma, there were many officers of the same rank as Officer Fang who came down from the military jeep. Old Fang, have they all entered the fog forest? Commander Ma narrowed his eyes and asked Officer Fang. The superiors attached great importance to this selection competition. It was not only because the top 3 spots in the hunting school had to be taken by the best special forces. More importantly, if the 3 special forces who went to the hunting school could graduate successfully, it would have a great impact on Z country's reputation. At least the foreigners would not look down on Z country's people. Z country's people also had to establish their own dignity. Hence, Commander Ma came down from the army to check on the situation. Yes, sir. Officer Fang nodded at Commander Ma. Well, have you found any good seedlings in the past 19 days? Commander Ma nodded and asked again. There are some good seedlings, but they are still young. Speaking of good seedlings, the first person that came to Officer Fang's mind was undoubtedly Yun Jian. How small? How's his strength? Military Commander Ma quickly asked. 16 years old, and her strength is amazing. Officer Fang could only use the word amazing to describe Yun Jian. Oh. Since you can use such a tone to evaluate her, she must be a good seedling. I really want to meet him. As soon as Commander Ma finished his sentence, Chief Fang's walkie-talkie rang. The panicked voice of the Special Forces soldier on the other end of the walkie-talkie could be heard all over the place. Yes, sir. Our plan has been seen through. All the officers present knew why it took so long to walk from the entrance to the exit of the dense fog forest. However, this was also to train a Special Forces soldier's ability to respond to unexpected situations and complete missions quickly. Therefore, all of the officers were well aware of this situation. However, ever since the selection had been held, the secret of the fog forest had never been discovered by any of the participating Special Forces. Not to mention that the plan had been seen through. If the plan was seen through, then this plan would definitely not work. Therefore, the voice from the walkie-talkie made Officer Fang, Commander Ma, and all the officers standing behind Commander Ma widen their eyes. What? The plan has been seen through. Who saw through it? Officer Fang asked the Special Forces soldier on the other end of the walkie-talkie in a daze. The voice of the Special Forces soldier immediately came from the other end. Hearing this, Officer Fang's eyes widened in shock. 006, isn't it her? It's that little girl. Chapter 1630. Military Commander Ma was even more satisfied after hearing the Special Forces soldier's words. While the officers were shocked, Military Commander Ma did not forget to nod. She is indeed a good seedling. I am confident that our Z country Special Forces will be able to hold our heads high in the hunting school this time. In the past, the Special Forces soldiers sent by Z country to the hunting school were not particularly outstanding. Hence, they were indirectly ridiculed by the hunting school and some international figures. Although there were a few exceptional talents, there were not many of them overall. There were only 1 or 2 of them who were at the top. Moreover, the 1 or 2 at the top was not as powerful as 100 or so people. Hence, when they heard that Yun Jian had exposed their plan, Military Commander Ma, Chief Fang, and every officer present were both embarrassed and excited. They were excited because they had finally found another good seedling. Ha ha ha. Old Fang, I have a feeling that this young lady will definitely amaze the world. Then she will become an outstanding representative figure in the history of Z country. Military Commander Ma gave the highest evaluation he had ever given in his life. Hearing this, the surrounding officers expressed their agreement. Somewhere in the misty forest, Zhou Duanzheng, Wu Ningnai, and the rest were watching the scene with their mouths agape. No one had expected Yun Jian to pull off such a trick. When Yun Jian walked towards the wolves earlier, everyone thought that Yun Jian wanted to deal with the wolves alone. However, no one had expected Yun Jian to kick away a wolf, then stun the wolves. Finally, she walked over and pulled out the Special Forces soldier under Chief Fang from behind a big tree. She even used a shocking method to decipher all the facts one by one. Without asking about anything else, Yun Jian's words had frightened the Special Forces soldier under Chief Fang to the point that he immediately called Chief Fang for help. Who on the scene could do such a thing? When they were surrounded by the wolves just now, everyone wanted to fight, but Yun Jian was the only one who saw through it. It was really, at that moment, no one dared to say a word. Until Chief Fang's voice came from the walkie-talkie. Ahem. Since the plan has been discovered, I will change the competition at the last minute. For the sake of fairness, I will remove all the beasts that are obstructing you. Everyone will rely on their own abilities. Whoever reaches the finish line first will win. The elimination system will remain unchanged. You can run if you want. The top 20 who find the correct direction and reach the finish line in the misty forest will advance. You may move now. 80% of the special forces were surrounded by the wolves, and the remaining 20% were not present. For the sake of fairness, Chief Fang changed the rules. He wanted everyone to reach the finish line in the misty forest as soon as possible and secretly removed all the beasts that attacked the Special Forces soldiers. In other words, the other 20% of the Special Forces would not encounter any ferocious beasts along the way and would be dismissed by Chief Fang. In this way, fairness could be guaranteed. As soon as Officer Fang finished speaking, the surrounding Special Forces soldiers continued moving forward as fast as they could. Run! Why were they standing? Waiting for the food? In fact, even without the beast's attack, it was not easy to run to the finish line. Because it was easy to get lost in the misty forest. If he just ran forward without knowing the direction, what if he ran in the wrong direction? Wouldn't they be even further away from the finish line? Yun Jian, what should we do? Perhaps because Yun Jian's performance was too outstanding, Su Mei, Su Wenming, and the other three walked up to Yun Jian and asked Yun Jian. Run. Whoever reaches the finish line first will win. However, Yun Jian only narrowed her eyes slightly. Then, she took the lead and took a step forward. Chapter 1631. Since Chief Fang had changed the competition format at the last minute, the members of each group could only run for a few steps before stopping. Running like this was not the way to go. Of course, they could not just run blindly. Secondly, they had to find the right direction and be precise. In this way, the 5 members of each group had to run in different directions. However, without the attacks of the beasts, the journey that would have taken them more than 24 hours could now be completed in a few hours. Of course, whether they were fast or slow still depended on their own speed and the time it took to find the right direction. Yun Jian did not even look at the compass. Sometimes, she would just look at the ground and decide which direction to go. Su Mei and the other 3 were very curious about this, but they chose to believe in Yun Jian unconditionally. Old Fang, you changed the competition format at the last minute. That little girl is a good seedling. Will she be able to advance? Military Commander Ma was very interested in Yun Jian. He kept asking Chief Fang. With her strength, if she can't advance, then there's no need for her to stay in the selection field. Chief Fang's heart was tense as he said this very calmly. To Chief Fang, if Yun Jian was really a good seedling, then no matter how the competition format was changed, she would definitely pass. Otherwise, there was no need for a good seedling like Yun Jian to stay. Old Fang, in your opinion, how long will it take for that little girl to come out of the misty forest? Military Commander Ma squinted his eyes and asked Chief Fang again. Officer Fang was silent for 2 seconds. He did some calculations seriously and finally said, that's right. 4 hours at the fastest. The misty forest is covered with green trees. Even with a compass, someone once took 4 hours to walk out of the misty forest. That was under the condition that the misty forest was unobstructed. Moreover, from the entrance of the misty forest to here, there is a place that is covered with fog all year round. It will definitely take a long time to walk out of there, so I estimate that it will take at least 4 hours. Chief Fang combined all the theories, reality, and people who had walked through that place before. Under the condition that there were no beasts, it would take at least 4 hours to walk out of the misty forest. Therefore, Chief Fang gave Yunjian the fastest speed, which was 4 hours. No, I think she will be even faster. Military Commander Ma suddenly interrupted Officer Fang confidently and said to Officer Fang confidently. It had been 2 hours since the special forces had entered the fog forest from the entrance. Oh? What do you mean? Chief Fang narrowed his eyes and asked. I trust my intuition. This little girl will lead us to a new height. Military Commander Ma looked forward and let out a long sigh. After a while, Military Commander Ma continued solemnly, I estimate that she can break the record and reach the finish line in 3 hours. 3 hours. No one had ever passed through the misty forest in 3 hours and reached the finish line. How high did Commander Ma think of Yunjian? All the officers present took a deep breath in shock. Look, that's. Just as Commander Ma gave Yunjian the highest rating and estimated the fastest record, someone exclaimed in surprise. That's someone coming out from the misty forest? That's impossible. It's only been 2 hours. Someone actually reached the finish line from the entrance of the misty forest in just 2 hours. Another exclamation of surprise was heard. All the officers present were shocked. They felt that they had never encountered anything more shocking than today. That's 006. Officer Fang narrowed his eyes. When he saw the petite figure easily pass through the last patch of grass and walk over with the other 4 people from the same team, he exclaimed in surprise. All the officers present straightened their backs solemnly when they saw the number tag hanging on the leader's chest. Chapter 1632. Yunjian had her hands in her pockets. She strolled towards them lazily while enjoying the scenery. We're here. We're at the finish line. Su Mei saw Chief Fang and the other officers standing beside him. She was so surprised that she couldn't move her legs. That's it? Did that mean that they wouldn't be disqualified and would advance to the next round? The elimination rate this time was as high as 80%. In other words, among the 99 special forces, only the top 20, which was 1/5 of them, would be able to advance. The rest of them would be disqualified in this event. Pack up and leave. With such an elimination rate, even if Yunjian foiled Chief Fang and his team's plan, it was still terribly difficult for her to walk out of Mist Forest in the top 20 and advance to the next round. In spite of it, Yunjian had brought them to the destination in just 2 short hours. First place. First place. It's really her. It's really her. Chief Fang was so excited that he pinched the corner of his shirt and shouted. Chief Fang had never lost his composure like today. However, the moment he saw Yunjian and saw the number 006 tag hanging on Yunjian's chest, he almost jumped onto Commander Ma's waist and hugged him. Although Commander Ma was also excited, he still resisted the urge of Chief Fang to jump on him. He twitched the corner of his mouth and cursed in his heart. Luckily I'm prepared. Old Fang. If you jump on me, my waist will be hurt by your hug. Chief Fang's eyes were fixed on Yunjian from the beginning to the end. When he saw Yunjian walking towards him, a trace of pride flashed across his heart. It was his pride to be able to become Yunjian's chief. Yunjian walked slowly to the finish line. Chief Fang excitedly said to Yunjian and the other 5 people with Yunjian, 006, congratulations on getting first place in the 20th Dangerous Combat event. And your team is the first to reach the finish line. When he said this, Officer Fong was trembling all over. By the time the other teams reached the finish line, it had already been 6 hours since they entered the misty forest. By the 7th hour, all the teams had exited the dense fog forest. The outcome had been decided, but the teams that were eliminated on the spot were not discouraged. After all, he had participated in the preliminaries for 20 days and got to know many people. It was not a loss. When the results were announced, although Officer Fong's tone was much calmer in front of everyone, he still spoke with a hint of excitement. The first place of the 20th dangerous subject under actual combat conditions is 006. 006 is an example that all of you should learn from. Speaking of the three numbers 006, Officer Fong's blood was boiling. For some reason, when he said these three numbers, everyone present felt as if they were surrounded by faith. Zhou Duanzheng and Wu Ningnai's faces were the darkest and scariest among all the people present. They had mocked Yun Jian before, and now their faces were as ugly as they looked. However, it was undeniable that Zhou Duanzheng and Wu Ningnai were quite capable as they had advanced. Although they were the last team to advance, they had barely passed the passing line. Chief, when you mentioned 006 earlier, I had an illusion that I was looking at Slaying God, who stood at the pinnacle of the world. Her abilities were admirable, and she was ranked first on the International Secret Agent Leaderboard. That's because Slaying God's serial number was 006 when she first joined the Inhun organization. At that moment, a Special Forces soldier who was eliminated suddenly said. Although Slaying God was an international fugitive, it was undeniable that Slaying God's abilities were the lifelong pursuit of many people. 006 was Slaying God's serial number when she first joined the Inhun organization. It was like the protection of God. Yun Jian's abilities and her serial number made the Special Forces soldier feel as if he had seen Slaying God herself. Everyone around them had the same illusion when they heard that. Chapter 1633. When everyone looked at Yun Jian, they felt as if they were looking at Slaying God, the #1 secret agent in the world. 006. It was the symbol of strength. After the Special Forces soldier praised Yun Jian, the other Special Forces soldiers who were disqualified in this round looked at Yun Jian with admiration as if they were looking at Slaying God. Putting everything else aside, the ability of Slaying God, the #1 secret agent in the world, was legendary. At the same time, it was the dream of countless Special Forces soldiers and a realm that they wanted to reach. Countless Special Forces soldiers wanted to fight for the quota to go to the Hunter Academy in order to train their skills to become someone like Slaying God. So what if you're staring at her? She's 006, but that doesn't mean she's Slaying God. Seeing that everyone was looking at Yun Jian, Zhou Duanzheng, who was standing not far away, had long found Yun Jian an eyesore. This time, he said what he wanted to say in front of everyone. 006, the same as when Slaying God first joined Inhun, but what did that mean? It did not mean that Yun Jian was Slaying God, the #1 secret agent in the world. Even if Yun Jian's performance was shocking, Zhou Duanzheng had never seen Yun Jian show off her amazing skills. To Zhou Duanzheng, even if Yun Jian had surprised a bunch of people, she was just taking advantage of the situation. At most, she was smarter. Looking at her skinny body, she did not look like she had much strength. That's true, but the young lady is really amazing. She needs to be praised. At least, I can't reach her level now. I've been disqualified. A man in his 30s refuted Zhou Duanzheng's statement tactfully. He first smiled, then praised Yun Jian indirectly. With an 80% elimination rate, it was amazing that a teenage girl like Yun Jian could stay in the selection field. Zhou Duanzheng clenched his fists. He originally wanted to say something, but he forcefully swallowed the words that he wanted to say. He would use his fists and strength to show Yun Jian in the next few days that it was impossible for her to compete for the top 3 spots in the Hunter Academy with just some tricks. He would let her know that leaving the selection field with serious injuries was not a joke. The results of the competition are out. Many people have left. You can leave the selection field tonight. Chief Fang signaled for everyone to quiet down and said to the Special Forces soldiers who had been disqualified. Don't be upset that you've been disqualified because you're not disqualified. You're just temporarily. Next year, the year after that, and the year after that, there's still plenty of time for you to make a comeback. Remember that each and every one of you are the pride of Country Z. Everyone has their own value. Officer Fang patted his chest and spoke very solemnly, spreading his passionate words to everyone present. After he said that, the Special Forces soldiers who were disappointed that they had been eliminated mustered their courage again. Chief Fang at the same time, 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 at the same time. After sending away all the Special Forces soldiers who had been disqualified, there were only 20 Special Forces soldiers left, including Nan Linlin and Luo Mei. Nan Linlin and Luo Mei were not included in the 20 Special Forces soldiers. They were there purely to experience life. Luo Mei, on the other hand, was very hardworking in learning martial arts. After sending away all the Special Forces soldiers who had been disqualified, Chief Fang gathered the remaining 20 Special Forces soldiers in an empty space. Nan Linlin and Luo Mei were not included in this group of 20 Special Forces soldiers. I'll bring you to a Taekwondo dojo later. You'll stay there for the next few days. We're just borrowing the dojo's space. The remaining 20 Special Forces soldiers will fight one-on-one. You'll fight each other once a day. I'll explain the rules later. When we get there, the Taekwondo dojo has its own business. Everyone can train in the Taekwondo dojo, but don't disturb their business. I'll take you there now. Chapter 1634. After Officer Fang finished speaking, he asked the people who stayed behind to pack their luggage. After staying here for 20 days, Luo Mei was reluctant to leave. So many of us were eliminated so suddenly. I feel a little sad. Luo Mei pouted and said dejectedly. All good things must come to an end. Our selection competition will officially end in 10 days. Su Mei had to say something that made Luo Mei's heart ache. Luo Mei was still too naive. Then can I still hang out with you guys in the future? Luo Mei looked at Yun Jian and then at Su Mei and asked expectantly. Of course. Su Mei answered coolly. Luo Mei heard Su Mei's words and looked at Yun Jian expectantly. Sure. Yun Jian's red arc moved slightly and she said calmly. That's great. Luo Mei smiled at Yun Jian and Su Mei and clapped her hands excitedly. TSK, we've only been together for a few days. You're acting as if you've already been through life and death together. Pretentious. Nan Linlin heard what Luo Mei said to Yun Jian and Su Mei and couldn't help but complain. As soon as she finished speaking, Nan Linlin's call was connected. She hurriedly pressed the hands-free button and pressed the phone to her ear. The disgusting face just now instantly disappeared and was replaced by an intimate and disgusting smile. Hello dear, what are you doing? Me? We're going to a Taekwondo dojo. I don't know where it is. Okay, I'll send you the address as soon as I know it. I love you too. I want a kiss. I've been here for you for the past few days and I've been bored to death. Yun Jian raised her eyebrows slightly after Nan Linlin's mushy words. Luo Mei and Su Mei's tolerance was obviously weaker than Yun Jian's. Even though it was not their first time hearing Nan Linlin's mushy words, their lips still twitched. It was true that they reacted this way because they were numbed by the words. However, Yun Jian had already packed her bag. She slung it over her shoulder and was about to walk out. We're ready too. Luo Mei and Su Mei couldn't stay any longer. They quickly picked up their luggage and followed Yun Jian out of the door. After everyone had arrived, Officer Fang led them to the taekwondo gym he had mentioned. This taekwondo dojo was very big. It was the only dojo in the entire Z country. It took Officer Fang 2 hours to take a bus to get here. Other taekwondo dojos only had 1 floor, and the area was not large, but this taekwondo dojos had 3 floors. The entire 3 floors were the taekwondo dojo's territory. Each of the 3 floors was an endless training ground. The business here was very big, and there were many people who came here to practice taekwondo. Moreover, there was a hotel on the 3rd floor of the taekwondo club. As soon as Yun Jian and the others arrived, they were arranged to stay in a hotel on the 3rd floor of the taekwondo dojo. Because the business of the taekwondo dojo was booming, many big shots from all over the country came here. Even some famous people from the world came here, so the business of the hotel was also booming. After Yun Jian and the others checked in on the 3rd floor, the one-on-one competition was not in a hurry to start. At night, Officer Fang gave everyone some free time. They could also go out with their friends, go to restaurants, go to the supermarket to buy something to eat, and so on. After Yun Jian, Su Mei, Luo Mei, and the others settled down, they went downstairs to look for food. It was still early. 5:00 was the time for the taekwondo students to go home for dinner, so Yun Jian and the others did not see many taekwondo students when they went downstairs. They found a snack bar nearby and sat down to order 3 bowls of pickled vegetable noodles. Just as Yun Jian and the others relaxed, they heard someone at the next table mention, "Hey, did you guys know? I heard that many special forces have just moved in at the taekwondo dojo next door. It said that there will be a one-on-one competition to choose the best 3 people." Chapter 1635. Special Forces? Special Forces coming to the Taekwondo dojo for a fight? Is this news real or fake? Did you inquire wrongly? Another person asked in a slightly suspicious tone. How can my news be fake? Do you know about the International Hunting Academy? Heh, it's the place where the Special Forces are trained. I heard that this time, the Special Forces will compete here and choose the best 3, so that they can send the best 3 to the hunting school to further their studies. I heard that 80 Special Forces have been eliminated and the top 20 have been chosen. The final battle will be held at the Taekwondo dojo. The top 20 Special Forces are the best in the whole of Country Z. They're not something that normal Special Forces can compare to. The burly man sitting next to him slurped his noodles and described the incident as if he was intoxicated. He looked as if he was one of the powerful Special Forces soldiers that he described. Hearing the man's boasting, the other burly men beside him were mesmerized. They clapped their hands and exclaimed, "Amazing! Amazing!" They didn't know that 2 of the Special Forces that they were boasting about were right next to them. It was normal that outsiders couldn't tell Yun Jian and Su Mei's strength from their looks. Ahem. Su Mei blushed in embarrassment when she heard the boos of the men next to her. She coughed twice to show her embarrassment. Luo Berry and Nan Linlin weren't counted among the 20, so Luo Berry was just a little surprised. Yun Jian was calm as if nothing could change her expression. The noodles are here. 3 bowls of kimchi noodles. It's warm, be careful not to burn it. The shop owner brought 3 bowls of freshly cooked kimchi noodles and placed them in front of Yun Jian and the other 2. Wow! It looks delicious. Luo Berry couldn't help but pick up her chopsticks and put the noodles into her mouth. Phew! It's so hot. Don't burn yourself. Luo Huan gasped. She took 2 deep breaths. Then, she was afraid that Yun Jian and Su Mei would be scalded like her. She endured the burning pain in her mouth and quickly spoke to Yun Jian and Su Mei. Hurry up and drink some water. Look at how impatient you are. Su Mei laughed dryly and quickly poured a cup of water for Luo Mei. Yun Jian's eyelids lifted slightly, and her red eyes curved slightly. Yun Jian ordered 3 bowls of noodles in a row and ate them all without blushing. Maybe it was because the noodles were too delicious. By the time they finished dinner, it was already 6:30 p.m. As soon as Yun Jian and the other 2 returned to the Taekwondo dojo, they saw about 20 to 30 Taekwondo students practicing boxing on the training ground on the first floor. There were also quite a few people standing around. It seemed like they were here to watch the show. Come on! Come on! Come on! Go Lin Kun! There were actually girls dressed as cheerleaders standing by the side. They seemed to be cheering for a handsome boy among the 20 to 30 Taekwondo students. They seemed to be having a competition. Let's stay and watch before going back. Su Mei was suddenly interested. She squinted her eyes and said, "Sure." Luo Berry nodded. Yun Jian also stood in the same spot. These students were all practicing Taekwondo moves to see who could perform better. The male student named Lin Kun instantly became the center of attention. Chapter 1636. That boy named Lin Kun was the one with the most cheers out of all the Taekwondo students present. Moreover, this boy named Lin Kun's punching technique was indeed vigorous and on point. Lin Kun very much enjoyed being the center of attention. The girls around him were wearing cheerleading outfits and cheering him on. Today was the Taekwondo dojo's monthly punching competition. It was a competition of whose punches were on point and accurate. Ha! It wasn't until this boy named Lin Kun threw the last punch that the group of girls wearing cheerleading outfits screamed and the atmosphere reached its climax. There were also many parents standing around. It seemed that most of them were here to accompany their son. Seeing their son punching in front of these 20 to 30 Taekwondo students, they suddenly felt a sense of pride. Some parents even pulled the surrounding people and pointed at a certain figure and said, "This is my son," and so on. That boy named Lin Kun was about 18 or 19 years old. When he threw the last punch and received the screams of the surrounding girls, his smug look could no longer be concealed. They are all so powerful. They are simply young geniuses. Each and every one of them has a unique skill. A parent exaggeratedly screamed and praised the 20 to 30 Taekwondo students. The scene had already reached its peak. Countless people were cheering and screaming uncontrollably. They are the hope of our country. Some parents even shouted loudly. To the parents, these youths who trained in Taekwondo were like martial arts experts. Because they knew Taekwondo. That feeling was different from that of ordinary youths. In short, in the eyes of the parents, as long as the children had a little bit of ability, they were already very powerful. This was also the reason why that boy named Lin Kun, who looked quite good, was so smug. When a person was smug, it was completely dependent on the people around him flattering him. If no one around him flattered him, then there was no doubt that this person would not feel that he was different from ordinary people. After Lin Kun finished punching, he domineeringly turned his head. He walked over and took a bottle of mineral water from a girl. He opened it and drank it. This girl was so happy that she almost fainted. Lin Kun actually took the mineral water from her hand. Lin Kun was already tired of these girls. Every time it was the same group of people who came to watch him punch. Once or twice, he felt very smug and knew how to brag about his strength. But every time it was the same group of people who came to watch him punch and then screamed and cheered. He was no longer satisfied. Just as Lin Kun drank the mineral water that the girl gave him, he inadvertently glanced at Yun Jian and the other 2 not far away. These 3 girls, he had never seen them before. Lin Kun tossed the bottle of mineral water in his hand away, allowing it to flow on the floor as he made his way to Yun Jian and the others. Lin Kun went to pick up girls again. Standing not far away were a few people who were about the same age as Lin Kun. They were also members of the Taekwondo dojo and were also Lin Kuan's good friends. Lin Kuan's attention, Lin Kuan's girls, attention, who was Lin Kuan? Lin Kuan, s. Lin Kuan ran a hand through her hair as she stared at Yun Jian and Luo Mei, waiting for their reply. Luo Mei gulped and hid behind Yun Jian without making a sound. Lin Kuan, on the other hand, looked at Yun Jian. Are you sure you want me to comment? Under Lin Kuan's expectant gaze, Yun Jian indifferently asked. Of course. Lin Kuan flicked his hair again. He looked at Yun Jian expectantly and continued to confirm. He had full confidence that Yun Jian would definitely give him a very high evaluation. Because his strength was there for all to see, he would not accept any rebuttal. In the distance, Lin Kuan's friends all revealed mocking smiles. Which young girl who saw Lin Kuan's handsome and eye-catching side wouldn't be able to resist giving him a high evaluation? Everyone around them looked at Yun Jian as if they were making a solemn vow. However, he heard Yun Jian's comment, fancy moves, flashy but not practical. Nice to look at, but useless. Lin Kuan was dumbfounded by this comment. She said. What did she say? Did she say that he was good-looking but useless? Hey, what's wrong with you? Lin Kuan is the best fighter in our Taekwondo dojo. You're a girl who doesn't even know how to fight. How dare you say that Lin Kuan's moves are flashy but not practical? You're provoking us, right? Do you think you're one of those famous special forces soldiers who moved in today? You're just a young girl, how dare you use such a tone to comment on us? If you have the guts, show us how to fight. Just as Yun Jian finished her comment, the boys in Lin Kuan's group immediately ran over and pointed at Yun Jian. Their tone was full of disdain for Yun Jian. It was as if they were saying, you're a girl, so you should praise me. You don't even know Taekwondo, so what's so great about it? Just as they finished speaking, someone walked in through the door. The man looked around and found his target before calling out to Yun Jian, Su Mei, and Luo Berry, you're here, 006, 057, 101, Officer Fong is calling us to gather outside. This person was one of Yun Jian's special forces soldiers. Suddenly hearing this person's words, the boy who said that Yun Jian was not good was shocked. Chapter 1637. Officer Fong led a team of special forces soldiers into the Taekwondo dojo, and they were about to have a one-on-one match. Even though Officer Fong brought Yun Jian and her group of 20 over people here to keep a low profile, the news still leaked out. Special forces soldiers, to ordinary people, they were a sacred symbol. Normally, they wouldn't even be able to meet them. Being a special forces soldier represented strength. Why did the youths in the Taekwondo dojo train so hard? Wasn't it all for the sake of becoming stronger? And the special forces soldiers were such a powerful existence. As the saying goes, powerful people will always be looked up to. When they heard that Yun Jian was a special forces soldier, all the parents and students in the Taekwondo dojo looked over with curiosity and shock. She's one of the most powerful special forces soldiers in the country? She. Lin Kuan, who was swaggering in front of Yun Jian, was so shocked that his eyes widened. He looked at Yun Jian with a terrified expression. The girl in front of him was actually one of the most powerful special forces soldiers in the country? Was she even 18 years old? Lin Kuan's expression changed. He stared at Yun Jian, and his expression was as if he had stepped on dog poop. Just now, he was so cocky in front of Yun Jian. He thought that a girl actually dared to use such a contemptuous tone to judge him. She was only good-looking, but she was useless. But now, it seemed that his actions just now had turned into a ridiculous joke. Lin Kuan's expression was extremely dark. Let's go, let's gather. Su Mei was the oldest after all. She saw Lin Kuan and this group of brats talking about Yun Jian like that, and now they were being humiliated. She only twitched the corner of her mouth and was too lazy to argue with them. Su Mei waved at Yun Jian and Luo Mei, and walked towards the Taekwondo dojo's main entrance. Yun Jian only sneered slightly, and then she turned around and followed Su Mei out of the Taekwondo dojo. Yun Jian's fluttering long hair was tied up high at the back of her head. She wore a black tight suit, and her tall and beautiful figure was vividly displayed. Her back view was so free and easy that it made people's blood boil. Are all the Special Forces soldiers gathering at the entrance? Let's go, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Why aren't you guys going to take a look? Some parents reacted and shouted excitedly. All the students and parents in the Taekwondo dojo reacted and followed them out. Although Lin Kun felt awkward, he couldn't hold back his curiosity, and walked out of the Taekwondo dojo's group. The three of them were the last to gather at the entrance. Chief Fang was currently standing on the steps of the Taekwondo gym, looking down at them. By the time the three of them entered the troop and stood at attention, everyone was already present. At this time, Lin Kun and the others walked out of the Taekwondo dojo's entrance, full of curiosity. Everyone stood in the distance and looked at Yun Jian's group of 20 people. Tomorrow, we will officially start the one-on-one competition. The rules are simple. We will draw lots to fight. The winner will stay, and the loser will pack up and leave. From today onwards, there will be a competition every day until the final 3 people are chosen. Officer Fang and the others were all present, and he spoke very solemnly. Because they were temporarily gathered at the entrance of the Taekwondo dojo, the passers-by stopped and looked over. Parents, Lin Kun, and the others were all standing around. What shocked Lin Kun and the others the most was that Yun Jian was actually a member of the Special Forces. But the shock was far more than that. After Officer Fang finished his speech, he continued, "Now, each of you can express your thoughts or your confidence in the competition." Officer Fang looked at Yun Jian and said to Yun Jian, 006, "You have the best ability. You go first." After he finished speaking, Lin Kun and the others watched as Yun Jian walked out from the group of Special Forces soldiers, and then walked up. The best ability? The youngest girl actually had the best ability? Chapter 1638. Lin Kun and the others watched as Yun Jian left the team and slowly walked to the stairs of the Taekwondo dojo. She stood next to Chief Fang and turned around to look down at the people in the team. Seeing Yun Jian's solemn look, Lin Kun and the others who were standing in the distance had an illusion for a moment. Yun Jian's appearance was like the king of all, looking down on everyone. Although Yun Jian's age and the aura she was exuding at this moment were completely different, Lin Kun and the others who were standing in the distance couldn't help but be impressed by Yun Jian's aura. At this moment, Lin Kun seemed to feel the difference between himself as a Taekwondo player and Yun Jian as the king of the Special Forces. In spite of it, Lin Kun swallowed hard and shook his head, refocusing his gaze on Yun Jian. He saw Yun Jian standing next to Chief Fang. She narrowed her eyes and pursed her lips. In front of so many people, adults and children, she calmly said a sentence that made everyone feel that she was arrogant. "First place in this year's qualifier. Sorry, it's mine." Yun Jian's words were arrogant to the extreme. If the person who said this was a tall and sturdy man with great strength, no one present would have any doubts about it. But the person who said this was an underage girl who looked like she wasn't even 18 years old. Although Yun Jian's figure was slim, she was already 1.65 meters tall. Among women, this height wasn't considered short. In spite of it, Yun Jian was skinny. Her slender figure made her look like a frail little girl. Let's not talk about this. Look at the group of Special Forces soldiers standing below. Which one of them was as thin as Yun Jian? But Yun Jian was still so arrogant. Although Chief Fang said that Yun Jian's ability was the best. But ability didn't represent strength. This young lady was able to become a Special Forces soldier at such a young age. She even stood out after eliminating the other Special Forces soldiers. She's really amazing. It's a pity that she's not modest, and her strength isn't that strong either. Such an arrogant little girl won't last long. A male parent who knew about one of the contestants shook his head and sighed. Ha! Who are you trying to impress? Nan Lin, who was standing in the distance, sneered when she heard Yun Jian's words. He didn't say anything else. Zhou Duanzheng and the others, who had always been at odds with Yun Jian, didn't try to undermine her after Yun Jian spoke in front of so many people. When Yun Jian returned to her original position, it was Zhou Duanzheng's turn. Zhou Duanzheng glared at Yun Jian fiercely and strode up the stairs. 006, the one-on-one competition will officially start tomorrow. On the day I fight you, I'll let you know how to write the word strength gap. Zhou Duanzheng provoked Yun Jian with arrogant words as soon as he stood on the stairs. His tone was so mischievous that the surrounding audience was dumbfounded. When they finally reacted, the surrounding audience suddenly became excited. A public challenge? Then the one-on-one competition from tomorrow onwards would be fun. When Zhou Duanzheng came down the stairs, Yun Jian narrowed her eyes and met his gaze. She mercilessly rebutted Zhou Duanzheng's provocation in front of everyone. Chapter 1639. Yun Jian's counterattack made Zhou Duanzheng's face darken. Anyone who was smart enough could tell that Zhou Duanzheng and Yun Jian were not on good terms. I'll see you in the arena. Zhou Duanzheng gritted her teeth and spat back at Yun Jian. Zhou Duanzheng was a member of the Special Forces after all. Lin Kuan, who wanted to show off in front of Yun Jian, felt a shiver run down his spine. Lin Kuan was still young. Although he was considered the most talented and powerful among the youths at his age, he was still young. But compared to the Special Forces, it was not even worth mentioning. Especially for a Special Forces soldier like Zhou Duanzheng who exuded an imposing aura. Lin Kuan felt his hair stand on end just by looking at Zhou Duanzheng's eyes, let alone talking to Zhou Duanzheng as arrogantly as Yun Jian did. I'll wait for the day I kick you out of the competition. That kind of arrogant words. Regardless of Yun Jian's strength, Lin Kuan swallowed his saliva hard. Officer Fang obviously did not stop Yun Jian and Zhou Duanzheng from verbally challenging each other. Sometimes, if one didn't stimulate one's potential, one would never know what realm one's strength could reach. After all the members went up to express their fighting spirit, Officer Fang concluded with a final sentence before dismissing everyone. From tomorrow onwards, no matter if you leave or stay, please remember that you are the best. Some people would be frustrated for life because of one failure. Officer Fang was afraid that the Special Forces soldiers who were eliminated would have doubts about their strength. That was why he would transmit some positive energy to them before every large-scale elimination. Alright, from now on, you can hang your number tags on your chests. Tomorrow onwards, you will enter the finals and compete one-on-one. You can dismiss now. After Officer Fang finished speaking, he announced the dismissal. The moment Officer Fang announced the dismissal, Luo Berry breathed a sigh of relief for some reason. Luo Berry then took out the number tag from his pocket and fastened it on his chest. Although Luo Berry and Nan Lin would not be participating in the finals tomorrow, the two of them trained like Yun Jian and the rest. Why can't this brooch be fastened? Sister Moldy, can you help me take a look? Luo Berry tried for a long time, but she couldn't close the number tag on her chest. She tugged at it for a long time before leaning towards Su Mei. At this moment, Yun Jian was standing not far away. She crossed her arms in front of her chest and did not touch her number tag. Because Lin Kuan, who was showing off in front of her just now, was standing in front of her. So you're from the Special Forces. Let's be friends. My dream is to be a Special Forces soldier too. To become a soldier. I believe that with my strength, I can definitely become a Special Forces soldier like you. It's just that God hasn't given me the opportunity to join the special forces like you did. But I believe that I will definitely join the special forces. I think we must be on the same side. So let's be friends." Lin Kuan confidently extended his hand towards Yunjian. He had a mysterious confidence that if he joined the special forces, his strength would definitely be stronger than Yunjian's. If a girl of Yunjian's age could join the special forces, it meant that it wouldn't be difficult to stand out in the special forces. And with his strength, it would be extremely easy to stand out in the special forces. In short, Lin Kuan was full of confidence in himself. Even Yunjian could not help twitching the corners of her lips when she saw how confident she was. Ah! Lin Kuan actually personally invited a girl to be his friend. So handsome. So handsome. I'm going to faint. Why can't I be that girl? That girl is so lucky. Oh my God, I'm really going to die from how handsome he is. Indeed, Lin Kuan is the most handsome when he's making friends. That girl has a few lifetimes of good luck. She can actually become friends with Lin Kuan. The group of girls who were cheering for Lin Kuan when he was punching earlier all pretended to be infatuated with him. Lin Kuan admitted that he made friends with Yunjian because of her good looks. But towards Yunjian, Lin Kuan didn't have that kind of feeling. He simply felt that Yunjian's strength was weaker than his, but he also felt that being a member of the special forces might be of great help to his future development. Just as Lin Kuan extended his hand towards Yunjian, Yunjian narrowed her eyes. But before she could say anything, Yunjian felt an extra hand around her waist. The next second, a large palm grabbed her waist and pulled her into a warm and comfortable embrace. "Stay away from my woman and you can live a long life." Chapter 1640. That warm chest, even if Yunjian didn't guess, she could guess who it was. Who else could it be other than him? As long as Yunjian was free and could come out, Ce would come to find her. To describe Ce in an unkind way, even if she hid at the ends of the earth, he would still use his super invincible nose that was 100 million times more sensitive than a dog's nose to find her. Shoo, if she told him that she dared to use the super invincible nose to describe his ability to find people, Yunjian reckoned that she wouldn't be able to get out of bed tomorrow. He would definitely love and dote on her. "You are her boyfriend?" Lin Kuan wasn't as ignorant as any of the boys that Yunjian had met before. Other than being arrogant, Lin Kuan was an outstanding person. Hearing Ce call Yunjian his woman, Lin Kuan immediately reacted. The man in front of him was Yunjian's boyfriend? "We are already married. She is now my wife." Ce didn't care what Lin Kuan thought of Yunjian. As he spoke, he reached his slender hand into his trouser pocket. Yunjian only needed to look at Ce's hand gesture to know what Ce was going to do. He was going to take out their marriage certificate from country R again. Yunjian felt a little embarrassed to talk about Ce's strange habit. She coughed twice and reached out to grab Ce's hand, stopping Ce from taking out the marriage certificate. Ce was going to show off the marriage certificate before putting it back, but with Yunjian holding his palm and feeling the soft, girlish touch, he was so mesmerized by her beauty that he forgot to reach his hand into his pocket to retrieve the marriage certificate. Hearing Ce say that Yunjian was his wife, the surrounding people were a little surprised. However, looking at Ce's handsome face, they couldn't refute him. Ce's handsomeness made everyone present speechless. Ahem. That's her boyfriend, I know. Lin Kuan coughed twice. Couples in school would sometimes use husband and wife to refer to each other. Lin Kuan didn't find it strange. I just want to be friends with her. After all, we are both outstanding talents. It's normal for talents to make friends with talents. Besides, I don't have any bad intentions. Lin Kuan thought that he was in the right as he spoke to Ce boldly. In spite of it, Ce cut Lin Kuan off halfway through. Do you think you're worthy of being friends with my woman? befriending his Xiao Jian? Ce held back his urge to shoot Lin Kuan as he hugged Yun Jian's soft body and refused to let go. So soft, especially the fullness that his arm rubbed against. Just by rubbing her plump breasts with his hand, he could feel her fullness. I really want to rub it, touch it, lick it. Cough, cough. If Yun Jian knew what Ce was thinking right now, she probably wouldn't allow Ce to hug her. Wow! Yun Jian, you're married. Congrats, congrats, congrats. As a good friend, I'm definitely going to attend your wedding in the future. Luo Mei was surprised by Ce's words, but she chose to believe him and congratulated Yun Jian right away. Luo Mei was still fiddling with the number tag on her chest with Su Mei, so she congratulated Yun Jian when she heard what Ce said. Su Mei was surprised as well, but she was more mature than Luo Mei, so she did not say much. Of course. Hearing that Luo Mei was going to attend her and Ce's wedding, Yun Jian broke into a smile. Luo Mei lowered her head to fiddle with her number tag after she was done talking to Yun Jian. Why couldn't she get it up? Nan Linlin, who was a distance away, was indignant when she saw that Yun Jian had such a handsome boyfriend. Seeing that Luo Mei was close to Yun Jian and was fiddling with her brooch, Nan Linlin walked over and bumped into Luo Mei hard. Ah! Luo Mei fiddled with the brooch, and it pierced into her hand. She screamed from the pain. Yun Jian and Su Mei were about to make a move when they saw it. However, before Yun Jian and Su Mei could do anything, Nan Linlin, who was about to enter the Taekwondo dojo, was grabbed by Mo Sun, who was standing behind Ce, stopping her from moving forward. Chapter 1641. If a person were to stand up for someone of the opposite sex whom they had never met, then this person might just be mentally unstable and suddenly wanted to avenge the other party. Mo Sun, who stood behind Ce, saw from the best position that Nan Linlin saw Luo Meiyue fiddling with the brooch on the number tag and purposely bumped into her, causing Luo Meiyue's hand to stab the brooch hard. Yun Jian was Luo Mei's friend, but when Mo Sun saw this scene, he instinctively rushed forward to avenge Luo Mei. The brooch wasn't deep, but it wasn't shallow either. It was bleeding. Luo Mei gritted her teeth in pain and pulled the brooch out of her hand. Nan Linlin, who was dragged to the ground by Mo Sun, wanted to say something arrogantly, but when she saw Mo Sun's murderous gaze, she was so frightened that she quickly apologized. I am sorry. I'm sorry. Nan Linlin ran away as fast as she could after apologizing. Seeing this, Mo Sun didn't chase after her. He saw Luo Mei pull the brooch out of her hand and it was bleeding profusely. Hence, he took out a few pieces of tissue paper from his pocket and walked over to Luo Mei's other hand that wasn't injured. He placed the tissue paper on Luo Mei's uninjured hand and turned to stand behind Ce without a word. Lubi stared blankly at the tissue paper that Mo Sun had placed on her hand. She widened her beautiful eyes and glanced at Mo Sun before lowering her head to look at the tissue paper in her hand. Thank you. Luo Mei thanked Mo Sun politely. Mo Sun didn't say anything. Mo Sun's appearance was also very outstanding. Although he wasn't as handsome as Shuang, he was still very handsome. If Shuang didn't have that terrifying scar on his neck, he would be the most handsome of the 4 leaders of an Han group. Unfortunately, with such a long scar, Mo Sun was more handsome than Shuang, even though Shuang was still handsome. The finals are starting tomorrow. How about it, young man? Do you want to have a meal together? Officer Fong walked over from the side and looked at Ce with a young man with a bright future look as he invited him in a friendly manner. Everyone, let's go together. I'll be the host today. Let's have a good meal at the hotel. Officer Fong called the others and said excitedly. Since Yun Jian wanted to go, Ce naturally wanted to go too. Nan Linlin's plan failed and no one wanted to talk to Luo Mei. Even Officer Fong's opinion of her. Hence, no one called her when they went to the hotel for a meal. Officer Fang ordered 3 to 4 tables of food. More than 20 people gathered together and ate with relish. Tomorrow was going to be a new battle, but before that, it was best to relax while he could. Luo Mei to see Luo Mei. Luo Berry was a little shy because Mo Sun had stood up for her just now. She didn't dare to raise her head. Yun Jian was holding a glass of Sprite and enjoying it. Delicacies were usually eaten slowly and in the most comfortable way. Only then could one understand the true essence of delicacies. Officer Fang came over with a glass of wine and toasted Ce and Mo Senator. Then, he walked over to Ce curiously. Seeing that Ce had not let go of Yun Jian's hand, he jokingly asked Ce in front of everyone. "You two young people are so loving. You can't bear to let go of each other at all times. Speaking of which, how far have you two young people gone?" Officer Fang raised his eyebrows and looked at Ce curiously. Yun Jian's hand paused when she heard this. Then, Ce suddenly said, "I've done everything I should and shouldn't." This short sentence made everyone's imagination run wild. Ce's level of lying had not changed at all. Yun Jian nearly spat out the Sprite in her mouth. She choked on it twice. Chapter 1642. Pfft. As soon as Ce finished speaking, Officer Fang, who was holding a glass of wine to toast Ce, didn't forget to toast the people around him. When Ce said the last sentence, Officer Fang was still holding a glass of wine to toast the people around him. At the same time, Officer Fang had already put the glass to his mouth and took a small sip of wine. The wine was still lingering in his mouth, but before he could swallow it, Ce's words had already rung out. These shocking words caused Officer Fang to spit out the wine he hadn't swallowed in time. It sprayed directly onto the face of a Special Forces soldier sitting in front of him. After Officer Fang let out a sigh of relief, his expression changed drastically. He hurriedly took out pieces of tissue paper from the dining table and apologized while wiping the face of the Special Forces soldier who had been sprayed in front of him. "Sir. I'm fine." The Special Forces soldier, who had been sprayed all over, looked at Officer Fang with a fake smile and continued speaking. How could he be fine? His face was covered in the other party's saliva. Cough cough. "It's my fault, it's my fault." Officer Fang forced an awkward smile and looked at the Special Forces with an apologetic expression. After wiping the Special Forces soldier's face, Officer Fang came back to his senses and saw that Ce had already let go of Yun Jian's belly. Actually, Yun Jian had blushed and slapped away Ce's hand, who had shamelessly lied in front of everyone. The dishes were served one after another. At this moment, Ce wasn't holding Yun Jian's hand. Officer Fang was a little puzzled, but he didn't ask any further. Cough. He was afraid that he would ask something strange again. The Special Forces soldiers had all undergone a physical examination before entering the selection grounds. Professionals could tell if a woman was pregnant just by touching her belly during the physical examination. Therefore, Officer Fang wasn't afraid that Yun Jian would hurt her belly and have a miscarriage during the finals. Cough cough. Ce pampered Yun Jian so much. He had been holding on to Yun Jian's hand ever since he entered the room. Why did he let go now? Just as Officer Fang was puzzled, Ce reached out with his slender hand. His well-defined hand held a pair of chopsticks and picked up a lobster from a plate not far away. He then placed it into his bowl. Then, he used his delicate and perfect hands to peel off the shell of the lobster. Young people these days like to eat lobsters. Lobsters live in unclean places, so it's better to eat less of them. A Special Forces soldier next to him smiled and nodded before speaking to Ce. The Special Forces soldier was in his 40s and was considered old for his age. He was also very concerned about his diet and health, so he did not mean anything else when he said that to Ce. Lobsters originally lived in dirty places such as smelly drains, so it was useless to eat too much of them. However, if one really liked to eat them, they could still eat them a few times. Young people these days don't know how to eat healthy food. They only care about tasty food. Old Cheng, don't try to persuade him anymore. Young people, eat well. It's best to eat and drink well first. Another Special Forces soldier next to the kind-hearted Special Forces soldier chimed in. Both of them were veteran officers who had been in the army for many years. They were strong and capable. As the two of them chatted, the topic of their conversation changed to something else. Ce, on the other hand, had not said a word since the beginning. His handsome face didn't look at Yun Jian. Instead, his eyes were fixed on the lobster he was peeling. Everyone around them thought that Ce liked to eat lobsters. Some people liked to eat lobsters, but they were too lazy to peel them. Delicious lobsters were usually fried with oil. After peeling the lobster, one's hands would be covered in oil. It was so oily that it couldn't be washed off. Therefore, many people were too lazy to eat lobsters even if they liked them. At least, the people around them thought that Ce was hard-working. Just as Ce was peeling the lobster swiftly and everyone thought that he was going to swallow it, Ce touched the plate of the lobster. Ce dipped the lobster meat in the bottom of the plate and fed the lobster that he had painstakingly peeled to Yun Jian. Xiao Jian, eat. He looked at her gently, showing a tenderness that he only showed to her. The people around them were surprised. You're tuning into the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.